All right, a very good morning, everybody. Once again from the flight deck, it's me, Captain Naps, with you for another live stream here on Twitch. Another episode of A Pilot's Life here live. So welcome everybody to I guess what will be the Christmas episode for this year, because yeah, it is basically, what is it, the 17th of December today? It is a week till Christmas. It's basically a week till Christmas, so this is going to definitely be the last chance I have to do a stream between now and Christmas. And now somebody logged in and has just cranked up the volume in my ear here. Probably not nearly as loud to you guys as it is to me, but trying to kind of get that even there, but it's definitely in one ear and not the other. But yeah, before I step into the flight deck, I just thought I'd point out the JetBlue plane here we have today. So we've got the New York Jets themed JetBlue, and the reason I really chose this is just because I thought it was a bit of a Christmassy color. It's very green. It's not fully red or anything, but it's definitely a little bit on theme, anyways, with Christmas here. And we do have another JetBlue plane pushed back off the gate there as well, and looks like a third one even in the background. So it's a little bit of a hub going on for JetBlue today. So it's kind of nice to be feeling at home, feeling like we're surrounded by friends, but it's just getting too noisy out here. So let's go ahead and hop in that flight deck. The sounds of silence. And what are the odds that the guy logs in and just starts his pushback, or starts his pushback right there and then? And I mean, that's what happens at an airport. Airports are loud. Airports are loud places. And people complain sometimes the sim's too loud, but like airports are really, really gosh darn loud places. Like you can go deaf very quickly at an airport if you don't have hearing protection on. So yeah, we don't need to simulate to that level in a simulator, but airplanes are loud machines. So we do need to kind of simulate that at least to a bit. So anyways, there's me, everybody. Good morning and welcome to the stream. And yeah, so today, what are we doing today? I didn't even pop it up yet, but here's what we're doing today. I didn't even fire it up. So of course, a little bit of just hilarity at the start of this stream this morning. I thought I had everything all set up. And then I went upstairs to go get my coffee, which I had actually put on to brew before I started setting up the sim. But I found out that not the first time I've ever done this, probably won't be the last time I've ever done this, but I put all the coffee stuff in the coffee maker, and then I forgot to turn it on. So then when I went upstairs, I had to go and kind of wait for it to actually brew some coffee instead of coming right back down with my cup of coffee. That's why it's a few minutes later than I expected to be. So anyways, here we are today. What are we doing today? We are going from, we're in Fort Lauderdale. For those of you that don't remember last time, we're in Fort Lauderdale. We are going to New York's LaGuardia Airport again, KLGA LaGuardia, once again, where it is a very dreary morning in LaGuardia. Now the weather is forecast to kind of clear out a little bit as we go, but I was there yesterday. It was a very dreary morning. It was definitely not sky clear or anything. So, the one thing I forgot to do that I was going to do, I'm going to run Active Sky here. Give me 1 second. The one thing I find that Active Sky does for me is it tends to more consistently handle the weather. What am I trying to say here? I find it's less prone to those sudden giant wind shifts that you occasionally get from Asobo when the wind suddenly miraculously disappears and then suddenly comes back 2 minutes later. You get this sudden giant 100-knot wind shift when it disappears, and then you get the 100-knot wind back. You get the other opposite wind shift. So I find, I find that's one of the things that's still kind of frustrating is certainly those cruising wind shifts that Asobo pulls out. So that's one of the reasons why I like Active Sky. It takes up a little bit more processor power, but I think it does a better job of smoothing out the weather, I think. And then maybe it's just anecdotal. I mean, I haven't really studied it scientifically and analytically. It's mostly anecdotal experience, but I like better what it does in that respect. Anyways, what's a morning without coffee, right? So, yeah, that's what we're doing today. We are going from Fort Lauderdale to LaGuardia. We're supposed to leave at the top of the hour, so in 24 minutes. We should probably get this show on the road here. So let's just do a couple things first of all. Let's just get the show processing. And today, I think we're going to have this work. So I'm just going to pop that open and put that down so I can see behind it. But I think today, my first officer is going to work. I did run the updates before, make sure there were no updates before I started the sim. And yeah, so let's just go ahead and do a configuration safety checklist. So the windshield wipers are off. The landing gear lever is down. Let's see here. The weather radar is Cal, weather, terrain, tilt, and off. The spoilers are the engine masters are off. The engine mode is normal. The spoilers are tracked. The flaps are 0, and the parking brake is set. The configuration state checklist is complete. And powering up the airplane checklist would be batteries 1 and 2. Check the voltage if they're above 25.5. Turn them on and just turn on the external power, and that's it. Unless you plan to use the APU, that's all you need to do to get this airplane up and running, and away it goes. So just going to import myself in my flight plan in there. Let this whole thing kind of start going here. And even while it's starting to go, we can do kind of some entering the flight deck configuration stuff here, whereby we get the ADIRs into nav, because that's one of the longest and most important processes to get started early. We can also get the crew oxygen supply on, the nav logo light to number 1, and let's see here, parking brakes on, and we'll have to check some fluid levels once we get the SD up and running. Okay, in the meantime, let's see, what have we got here? So we got a flight plan here for today, and while we're waiting for this, actually, let me just do this. Let's start setting up.
Roger.
All right, today we have Luca. She's going to be our FO for the day, and it seems like she's going to work today, so that's a good sign. Smoke detect fault often comes on initially with the power up. I'm going to just sort of disregard it for now. It often appears with the power up, and it should clear itself after a minute or so there. Perfect, and it did. On schedule. All right, the fluids we need to check in this aircraft, we need to check engine oil. Engine oil, we need to have 9.5 quarts plus a half quart for every hour of expected flight time. So we've got 10 hours worth of oil in there. Actually, 20 hours worth of oil in there. That's just her testing the system. Thank you. Hydraulics are all good, and the oxygen on the door page. And she's starting up the APU already. She loves to fire up that APU as soon as she sits down, and it's like, that's not the way most airlines want to do it. And in Europe, you'd be fined heavily for doing that. You know what? I am going to shut the APU down before the start gets too far, because it's just too early to start the APU. It really is. Okay. Let's hop into the box and just do a quick initialization of the ACARS, or the IRS system here. So on the FMGC, we swap the database to clear out any old navbays we might have in there, apply our performance factor if we have one, and I don't remember if I actually put one in here. I'm trying to zero it out most of the time these days, because it isn't really realistically modeled. Yes, every aircraft in the real world will have one, but it's not realistically modeled. The actual Fenix airplane does not burn more fuel, so why put it in? So I've kind of gotten away from doing that. And then, so let's go over here, and what are we today? We're JetBlue 172. And I might just change my handy-dandy flight counter to reflect that as well, so I don't forget that. JetBlue 172, we are going from KFLL to KLGA, Fort Lauderdale, up to LaGuardia, and a quick IRS initialization check. So if you go to your flight plan, go to the first page of the flight log. So first page of the flight log, you'll have the lat logs of all your waypoints, including your origin. 2604.3 north, 8009.0 west. That is correct for Fort Lauderdale, so we'll align on that reference point, and away we go. And then while I have the flight plan out, let's do a couple things here. First of all, let's just start the boarding fueling process. Thank you. So we do have some stuff to talk about in the flight plan today. We do have an MEL. If I go back to the summary page here at the front, we've got an MEL. We've got a series of MELs, actually. It looks like a lot. It's not, because 3 out of 4 are invoked. So what that means is basically these 3 yaw damper system 2, rudder trim system 2, and rudder travel limiter system 2 in op were all invoked by the fact that FAC 2 was in op. So FAC 2 has a bunch of implications, things that won't run because it's offline. We can go to the MEL, which I have over here, 22, and so we're looking for 2260. So I was looking this up earlier just to confirm everything. I really wish that like it would break it down by actual section here, but 2260 02 02 alpha is the FAC2, may be inoperative provided that all ADIRs, all ELACs, all SECs, all SFCCs, all LGCIUs, and all RAs are operative. So look at your flight plan, make sure none of those things are also MEL'd. Good. And then it does have the rudder travel limiter system 2 is considered inoperative, so we have to also MEL the yaw damper system, the rudder trim system, and the rudder travel limiter system, and then refer to our ops procedures. So let's just check the other ones as well. These are really easy as well here. So 6004 is going to be basically the next page here. Yaw damper system, 2 installed, 1 required. 1 may be inoperative. Pretty easy. The other 2 we've got today, 2722 and 2723. So these are flight controls. 27, scrolling through, oops, too far. 27, 22, 01 Bravo, rudder trim system 2 inoperative, 2 installed, 1 required. As long as number 1's working, that's okay. Rudder trim system 2 may be inoperative, refer to procedure. And then also 272301 rudder travel limiter system, again, 2 installed, 1 required. So number 2 system is an op in all these cases. Let's just check operational procedures as well, because for some reason we have them in a separate section, and I don't like that format for the MEL. Why not put them on the first page there, and why are you jumping from page to page? It feels very inefficient anyways. Flight preparations for FAC2 and up. For all aircraft with RMP-AR capabilities, RMP-AR operations are not permitted, and maximum kinetic capability is Cat3 single. If the auto-flight FAC2 fault alert is displayed on the EWD, or if erroneous speeds are displayed, we have to pull the circuit breaker, and the FAC2 system push button has to be off. So I had this recently, and in my case it was, and I didn't actually set it up in here. Let's just set this up here really quickly, but you can fail all this stuff. So we can do this. So we can go in here. We can go auto flight and go FAC2 non-resettable fault. We can reset it till the cows come home. It will not reset. So what we would do for the MEL is we make sure FAC2 is off, and the circuit breaker, which should be back here, and I've forgotten which circuit breaker it is here. What happened to my... There it is. 121 VU M19. So this panel is 121 VU. We're looking for, oops, don't do that. We're looking for M19. So coming over here, moving myself over here. 19 and M. M19, 28 volt DC power supply for FAC2 should be pulled. So that circuit breaker's pulled. If I can put myself back in the right spot, the FAC2 push button is off. That MEL is applied, and then I believe that's basically it. The other ones are going to be more or less just copies of the original here. There. So we also need 2722. So 226004. So let's just do that. This needs to be a lot bigger here. All right, 276004. It literally says Cat3 single, and I'm pretty sure that the flight control ones are going to say the same thing. 2722, they're all just going to say Cat3 single only, because the rudder system does not have redundancy. And for Cat3 dual, you need redundancy. That's what the dual implies, is that there's 2 of everything. So if 2 of something's missing, or if one of the two is missing, flight preparation limitations, maximum landing capability, Cat3 single, 2201 and 2301. It doesn't even have a procedure, but it would say the same thing. It's a Cat3 single only because we've lost our redundancy. All right, so let's just have a quick look at this. So these are all known. CB trip, panel J to M. Now that's one that you have to be very careful of with the CB trips. Make sure that nothing extra tripped. That it's only the circuit breaker you think is out is the only thing that's out. That there's not anything else out. So it's kind of important that we look at that. Okay, yeah, that is just the one circuit breaker that was pulled for the MEL. And we'd have to put a call around it if it's MEL. And autoflight FAC2, we're not going to reset that, clear autoflight, and we can remove that status because those are all related to the MEL. All right. And with that, they're boarding, I believe, so we should probably get this process started here. Looks like our IRSs have initialized while we were talking about the flight plan, which is perfect. So let's go ahead and hop back in the box and just set ourselves up for our departure here. So nav accuracy upgrade, GPS is primary, thank you. Let's go into the ATSU system really quickly here. And actually, I like to do it on number 2 just so I can kind of have one in the ATSU system, one in the FMGC system here. AOC menu, flight init, and just simply send for an automatic init. Give it all 3 seconds here. And there it is, JetBlue 172, Fort Lauderdale, LaGuardia, alternate Philly 219 in the air. Perfect. Normally, we'd also get, our company does all of our takeoff and landing data through the ACAR system. We don't have that option here. So the one other thing we can do here, first of all, is just go to secondary and request our secondary flight plan through the ACAR system, and this should load everything for us. And the one thing I was taught to check now, just look at the flight plan, look at the distance, and make sure the distance is approximately correct. 994, 977, very reasonable. And Fort Lauderdale to LaGuardia, that all looks very reasonable. Secondary flight plan uplink. Secondary activate, check takeoff data, we will. And what we'll do is we'll get some takeoff data here. So we've got that failure there. What we need is takeoff numbers here. So runway 10 left, let's actually do as I always do, and let's pull up the FAA's ATIS here. Why not use the real world system when you can? Because I don't believe we have a controller online unless somebody's logged on since I last looked, and nobody has. No. Fort Lauderdale, Romeo, departing 10 left and 10 right. So yeah, for a northbound departure, I'd expect 10 left. So let's plan on that. Looks like a dry runway out there. Optimal flap configuration. We don't need to force toga. We don't need the anti-ice. Packs we can do on. Let's sync our load sheet, but then let's go ahead and go up 500 from that. So 70.8. And what that does is it just gives us a buffer so that if we have a sudden last minute increase in load, we don't have to suddenly do this recalculation. Now, here on the tablet, it is fairly straightforward. It's very quick and easy to do. In the if you're using the ACARs, obviously that takes a little bit more time to do this. So let's calculate some data here. Let's see here. Flaps 1 departure sounds very reasonable for a 9,000 foot runway, 61 degrees, 141.
Are we good to start boarding?
Go for it.
Okay.
All right. I think they're already boarding, but anyways. Those numbers all look very reasonable for a 320, so we're going to go ahead and go with that. All right. Quick morning oxygen test. It's not correct in how it's being done, but that's okay. And let's go ahead and hop up into the top here and do this whole thing. So looking for any lights to indicate that any system is out of order or any switch that is in the wrong position. We're also going to do one of the few positive actions we actually do take besides checking is the actual testing of the CVR. Turn on the ground control mode, press the CVR test button, wait till you hear a beep. It should be one, depending on the type of CVR, there's a couple different modes you have. So I believe she tested the APU but not the engines. So let's test the engines. It is the first flight of the day today on this aircraft, so we're going to do a whole bunch of tests. So I'm going to make sure I heard her, so watch her test the APU fire system. And then the APU's not even running, so I could test it again if I wanted to. It's not going to do any harm, especially. But if the APU is running, don't hold that test button in after 3 seconds. It is possible. It's not always a guarantee, but it is possible for the fire extinguisher to automatically fire after 3 seconds, and the APU to go into auto shutdown. And we don't want that. It is still refueling, so we're going to leave the pumps off for now. First flight of the day, so let's turn the batteries off and check the charging cycle. They are both indicating off. We come back here, we put them back on, and we see that we have less than 60 amps within 10 seconds. We do have less than 60 amps, so the batteries are sufficiently charged. There's no need for an extra charging cycle. Most of the time, you come in the airplane and the controls are more like this. Very rarely that you find them even in the 12 o'clock position because it's just too warm. All right, pack 2 off for today for the startup. Just save some gas on the ground. Strobes are auto, all the rest of the lights are off. APU master, we're not starting yet, although now the ramp crew would be bothering us because it's pretty close to departure time. No lights on the maintenance panel. Pack 2 is off, we know about that. That's good. First flight of the day, we're going to do a compass check. Why did that light stay on? That's weird. Oh, that's weird. That was weird. Little glitch. It somehow glitched on. Let's see here. Altimeter. I've just got my ATIS over here on the other screen. 3016. I can now set it using my brilliant new MiniEFIS. 3016. I can also move those switches. I can move these switches, all without actually touching the mouse. I love not flying with not a mouse. Anyways, it's a wonderful thing. All right, add up. Let's align this, and one thing I can do as well is 1021, since we still haven't gotten the inches of mercury altimeter. That's one thing that, like, it's a minor thing, but it's important. It's very important. No airline in North America is going to have millibars in here because it's going to be useless. You're going to have to get out a conversion table every single time you want to know what the conversion, what to actually set on the altimeter. So, yeah, for European airlines, sure, great, absolutely. You guys work in millibars, sure. But for North American airlines, it has to be in inches of mercury. So why, oh why, is it taking Fenix so long to make that conversion? Because it's literally the same unit. There's no change other than the very bottom little thing where it just displays the units of the pressure setting. That's all that's different. Nothing else is different. So shouldn't be that hard. No smoking, park brake decast, 3 greens, up, it's on. It is December 17th, and the time matches what's in the computer. Perfect. While I'm looking down here, let's just grab the CTAF. I'm just going to do it the easiest way by typing CTAF into vPilot here. Where are we? KFLL 19.3. It's been a little while since we did the previous leg here. So 19.3 is what we're looking for. I can see that the nav backup light's not on. The audio select light's not on. All right, it's got Cal, we got off, we got weather terrain, we got tilt is goods. Boilers are retracted. The door is open right now, and pressurization is in auto mode. The status is Cat 2 in op, back to both PFDs on same fact. That's because of the MEL. Yeah, let's see here. The thrust levers are idle. You know what I didn't do? Last night I went for a little flight at 172. You know what I did not do was I did not reset my flight controls. I'm just realizing that right now, even as I talk about it here. All right, so I got to reset those. Give me a second. Let's just finish this flow. All right, and so what have we got? We've got one FD1, because both flight directors are on the same flight director because the FAC2 isn't up. One FD1. Altimeter 3016 inches indicating, and you'll see it on the other side as well. You'll see this guy's also 1FD1. 3016 inches indicating 20 feet. 3016 inches indicating, yeah, about 20 feet. 3016 inches indicating 20 feet. And a heading of 079, 079, 079, 0... Yeah, 079, yep. 079 and 079. All right, and we can get into the programming here. Give me 1 second because I want to just reset my controls before I forget. So just give me one. Okay, that should fix that. All right. I know we're only 5 minutes to departure and we're not even close to being ready yet. That's okay. We will get this done here. All right, so quickly bombing through this. The A321 with a V25 27 Alpha 5 engines. Database is current till Christmas Day. Performance factor of 0. It is 0 set, and anything to detune. I didn't see any nav aids that need deselecting right now, so nothing is deselected. Initialization for, let's see here, JetBlue 172. Going from Fort Lauderdale to LaGuardia. Alternate is Philly, and you know what I realized I could do as well, and I hadn't done this in a while, so I can actually pull this up and get a lot of information out of this. Summary. If I make this bigger, I should be able to see stuff. So cost index 14. So I'm getting this off the flight plan. I just got my SimBrief panel, which I honestly forgot about this that I even had this plugin installed. It's a really handy plugin. 350 the cruise, the temperature of minus 51 degrees, and yeah, I think I got everything in there. Triple 4190.77 and minus 51 for the temp. Top of line temperature minus 49, so we'll put minus 49 there. All right, routing. Nope. And why? Because I forgot to put the slash in there. Minus 49. There we go. All right, routing. There it is. So it looks like 10 left. We're doing the Felix 2 as far as E-Tech. Departure, 10 left. Felix 2 as far as E-Tech. 10 left, Felix 2 E-Tech. That's all going in. And then for the other end, we're going to do the Proud 2 through Hertz for 22 is the plan. So arriving in LaGuardia, ILS 22. The arrival is the Proud 2 with the Hertz transition. ILS 22, Proud 2 Hertz. We can insert all that. Total distance. Do I have total distance on here? I do not. But that's okay. We just go to the raw and total distance of 994. So that matches our 993 on here. Let's see here. That matches our 993 on here. Let's just have a quick look in here. I don't see any step climbs indicated in here. We don't have any lat longs or other use-defined waypoints, so that's all good. So let's see if the store function works. It works about 20% of the time, I swear. I don't understand why this is such an unreliable function on this aircraft, but it never seems to work. I don't even know why I bother trying anymore. All right, so what the routing should be is after the Felix 2 as far as E-Tech, then after E-Tech, it's direct Gruber. And then from Gruber, Yankee 299 to Silo. So I do see Yankee 299 starting at Gruber till Silo. From Silo, we go direct to... I think I have to make this a little bit wider to see the whole thing. Yeah, that's not the whole thing. There we go. Q107. Q107 from Garrick to Hertz. And then from Hertz is where we start the arrival there. The Proud 2 arrival, which ends in the ILS runway. Well, there's a lot of waypoints on that arrival. Holy Joe, holy. The ILS runway 22 in LaGuardia. All right, so that's all in there. RadNav, I've got nothing to auto-tune right now. Secondary recopy, and let's do an immediate return.
Guys. Here is the load sheet for you.
To Fort Lauderdale. Thank you. Hold on. Let me just finish typing here. Arrival, ILS 10 left. No star required. And just have a look, make sure this makes sense. 10 left, that all looks good. And the primary is still going to LaGuardia 22. Thank you.
No problem. Have a safe flight.
All right, so they're fully boarded. I got to get that AP started here shortly, but let's just do this. So we got the secondaries in there, the init Bravo page. Taxi point to route reserve 0, alternate, we're looking at 1.5. And the final fuel of 1.1. 1.1. All right, so alternate 1.5, final 1.1 ZFW. And if we go over here, we should be able to pull up the ZFW. I just need to press the button. Come on. So receive messages. We got our preliminaries. So I just want to clear that as an unread message. Edition number 1, 60.5 by 32.9. So 60.5 by 32.9. And block fuel looks like 10,000. We'll call it 10,000. So 70.3 will be our takeoff weight. I'm pretty sure we did 70.8, so that's a good takeoff weight. And the wind component off the flight plan should be over here somewhere. Component of plus 20. Oop. Plus 20. And just a quick check here. So we're looking for, look, we're already at 5.8219. I've got 5.3221. It's within reason. It's usually more precise in the real world, but I find there are some disconnects with Fenix. 2.1 extra, so I got 1.1, 1.4 extra. I find this extra fuel, it should be accurate. And if it in the real world, if it wasn't accurate, I would certainly stand and ask questions, but I just find in the sim, it's unfortunately never very accurate, so I stop asking questions after a while. All right, so the climb, cruise, and descent winds are all in blue, and we are happy with our takeoff numbers here, so we can send them to the MCDU. We normally retrieve them via ACARS, but obviously ACARS is not an option the way this system's set up. So takeoff runway 10 left, no takeoff shift, flaps 1, flex was 61, V1 148, PR 148, V2 150, and 1510, 1510, 1010 across the bottom for today. All right, 221 green dot speed. I'm gonna put that in there for now. We'll read this in a minute. Decide if we're gonna keep it in there. Prog page up to 35. Optimals at 34 with a max at 368. So we're okay. And let's just check this here. KFLL. 0.1 miles. That looks good. GPS's primary nav accuracy is high, and the irises are all naving with a 0.1, 0.2 bias. All right. It's time for departure briefing, and the ramp crew is probably already annoyed that we haven't started the APU yet, because departure time just came and went 2 minutes ago, and I'm just still yakking here. But we are going to get through this. So quick review. All right. So first of all, we have no clearance. What we do have is an auto ATC message that says to squawk 3351, so we can go ahead and put that in down here on the transponder. 3351. All right, so we got no clearance. Fuel is boarded. Actually, what I can also do here is, now that the fuel is boarded, the APU is starting. Fuel is balanced between both sides. We've got 10,000 kilos. We can check that against our flight plan to make sure that we do have 10.1 is what we're supposed to have, so that's very reasonable. Nothing in the center tanks, so leave the center tanks off. We can also put the belts on. And because she said the cabin's secure, we can go ahead and close that door. All right. So fuel, we got boarded, balanced, recorded, load is... yeah, final numbers are in, and reconciled. Logbook is on board. We've checked for a ramp check, as it could be done by us. Service check is checked. I think, and no snags, just the one MEL. All right, so quick little departure briefing here, or departure review before we go through the departure briefing. So, and is it me, or did this seem to run faster? Maybe it's just me. It feels like they might have added some efficiency to this. All right, anywho, here's the Felix departure. We are kind of doing the overwater route to get up there today, so let's do it. See if I can do this in a way that I can see everything I need to see all at once. All right, so let's put it in plan mode. Let's make sure constraints are on, and let's look at 10 left here. So 10 left, climb on heading 096. 096 to 580, then climb direct Marley, then on track 060 to Mimsy. Then on track 060 to cross Felix at or above 4,000. So the FMS estimating we're going to be, what does that say, 15,000 there by the time we get to Felix. As long as we cross above 4,000, we're good. Top altitude is 4,000. And then for our transition, we're going to E-Tech. So we're doing Viking, Wolfo, and E-Tech. There it is, E-Tech. So that's all in there. So first of all, technical status of the airplane, the MEL doesn't really affect the performance per se, other than the fact we're going to see one FD1 instead of one FD2, but doesn't affect our performance. NOTAMs, again, we can go in here and check, and boy, we got lots of NOTAMs in here. Holy chipolies. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. You guys are killing me here. Alright. Fort Lauderdale. Let's just have a quick look through here just to make sure that there's no standout NOTAMs here. Safety area variations, EMAS system's not standard, that's fine. And SID, we're not doing the Fort Lauderdale one, so none of that stuff affects us. Perfect. All right. Are you ready for the departure briefing?
Go ahead.
All right, and just because I said it, I'm going to actually just go and put this stuff in here. Weather good, radar required, pushback required, takeoff is config 1, thrust is reduced, terrain, takeoff runway is 10 left, speeds, I've honestly forgotten what they were, but let's just have a look here, 48, 48, 50. 48, 148, 150. It did auto-populate those. Perfect. Flex temp is 61. Cruise altitude is 35,000, I believe it was. Thrust reduction is going to happen today at 1,500. All right, that's all good. Okay, so today's departure. It is the Felix to RNAV departure. Accelerate to 250 knots if unable to advise ATC. Yeah, we. So what we'll do is we'll remove the pre-select from the perf page and just let it from the climb page and let it accelerate 250 knots right away. See additional requirements on the AAU page. Routing constraints are all as published with a top altitude of 4,000. So I've set 4,000. I don't know if you can see it right there. It's just behind, but it's right there. 4,000 feet is set. Let's see here. Let's just check the AAUP page, and it's just going to tell us the same stuff it does for pretty much every aircraft. Pre-flight. Cross-check the chart at RNAV SID navigation against the ATC clearance. Pre-planned runway using guidance. In section 5, ensure all transitions selected to play correctly. Use the legs page to verify routing. We did all that. Advise ATC if unable to verify correct loading. Do not modify or manually construct RNAV procedures before takeoff. Verify all modifications. Verify aircraft symbol routes to the runway symbol. Confirm proper navigation. Line up takeoff. Pilots can expect takeoff clearance. That will include RNAV to the first waypoint. So we're expecting RNAV to Marley off 10 left. Verify the correct runway SID are displayed. If not, then decline the takeoff clearance until the discrepancy is resolved. After takeoff, fly heading, engage, unless direct fly heading by ATC, engage lateral navigation guidance as soon as practical, but no later than 400 feet AGL. So this will automatically go into nav mode. It's got nav blue. Fly the departure, strict compliance with the lateral and vertical tracks and charted speeds are required. Once established, maintain route center line, manually intervene if necessary to stay on track and avoid transgressing the parallel runways. Specific information, and it tells you which departures. So we're on the Felix. Actually expect 10 right for the Felix. Huh. And here I did the whole thing wrong. Fortunately, there's no ATC to complain, so we're just going to run with it. I should have gone to this first. But in the future, 10 right for the Felix. I was thinking we're kind of going northbound. We'd take 10 left, but Felix is kind of straight out and then eventually turns north. So, anywho, not a problem because we don't have ATC to worry about. We don't have a huge traffic level to worry about either. Okay, so I think we got all that handled. No noise abatement. The engine failure is just going to be straight ahead out over the ocean to at least 3,000 feet. The performance in the box today for the left seat departure off runway 10 left, dry runway, no takeoff, shift flaps 1, and a flex of 61, V1 148, VR 148, V2 150, standard transition 18,000, 1510, 1510 for the thrust direction acceleration, and the engine out acceleration at 1010. 221, the green dot speed is no longer... Really? Can't clear it out once you put it in? Oh, that's dumb. That's not correct. You can absolutely clear that out. Alright, anyways, we'll just have to manually manage the speed to 250 as soon as we get the acceleration altitude. And, yeah, it's going to be managed departure. We do have climb blue, nav blue, so we'll get the autopilot on shortly after departure so we can, because we're flying single pilot. And, sorry, I just don't count you because you're just a machine. You're just a computer. What else am I forgetting here? RadNav is auto-tuned, and the secondary's got media return to 10 left. That's all I've got. Let me just check and see if there's any ATC online. My MEV approach. Let's check his controller info and see if it says anything. Does not, so... Just going to ask him because I'm not 100% sure. I haven't seen this Miami controller online. I don't know if they would control Fort Lauderdale or not. So, yeah, in the meantime, quick departure review. We'll do 2 engine taxi out. OEBs for this aircraft, we'll call it 646 and 61, and the IWLs will say are complete for today because we just need to get going here. We might be able to do them once we get airborne. All right, so we can go ahead and take off the external power. Just got the AP bleed on, and I think we got everything ready to go. And we do have a controller for departure today. Haha. All right. 2485. Somebody came online just in the nick of time to get me going here. So let's just call them up and get a clearance, and then we'll get going. We are behind. What can you do? Sometimes that happens. And I think I forgot to do one thing here as well.
JetBlue 63 radar contact 45 miles southwest of the Fort Lauderdale Airport, descend via the Bahima 3 arrival. Expect the ILS runway 10 right approach.
JetBlue 63A, radar contact, descend via Bahia 3 arrival, expect ILS runway 10 right, JetBlue 63A.
Miami approach, good morning. It's JetBlue 172 looking for clearance to LaGuardia.
JetBlue 172 Miami departure. I'll send it to you right now.
Thank you. All right. We'll go ahead and get the beacon on so that they start hooking up the tow bar and everything, and they get ready to go here. I can't remember if I said good to close. Did I say good to close? Cleared to close.
Thanks. Let me know if you need anything.
And there we go. 8 cars. All right. Call sign JetBlue 172, company A320, departing Fort Lauderdale.
Bunker, cross
LaGuardia.
bunker, 5,000, cleared ILS runway 10 right approach.
Route is Fort Lauderdale, Felix 2, E-Tech, Rubri, Yankee 299, Silo, Gara, Q107, Hertz, Proud 2, LaGuardia, Altitude 350, Squawk 3351, cleared Felix 2 departure, E-Tech transition, maintain 4,000, expect 350, 10 minutes after departure, and departure frequency is 2485. So we've got 4,000, he's got Fort Lauderdale, ATIS.
Appreciate the service, have a good one, America 307.
0010 was 14, broken 1800, 27 degrees, 3016 is what we got. Departing 10 left, 10 right. Alright, so what I've done here, just to sort of bring you into the loop of what I'm trying to do here and get done, is I put 10 right in here, and I'm going to calculate this, and then it should be very quick and easy to do a runway change here, hopefully.
Up right now.
Miami approach, JetBlue 172, gate Echo 8. We got information, Quebec, ready for push and start.
JetBlue 172, push is at your discretion, call for taxi, expect runway 10 left.
Alright, plan 10 left, and our discretion will call you for the taxi, JetBlue 172. Alright, 10 left, woo! No runway change required. Alright, in which case, let's do this. Before start checklist.
Parking brake.
Set.
JetBlue 638, verify that you're flying out the bunker.
Set.
JetBlue 63 numbers are right now flying direct bunker.
Set and checked.
Take off speed and thrust.
V1 148, VR 148, V2 150, flexing 61 degrees.
V1 148, VR 148, V2 150, flex temp 61 degrees, windows.
Closed.
Beacon.
On.
Before start checklist completed.
987 78, Miami departure. I'm going to send it to you right now.
Alright, and then I believe we just need to tell GSX which direction to push us. Continue pushback.
Release parking brakes, please. Commencing push.
Brakes are off, ready for pushback.
Start at will.
Alright, thank you. I just need to I realize I forgot to do one thing here, which is to check my trackers. Let's see here. Alright, so let's just make sure that my here, so MSFS is connected, pre-flight stage, it knows that. And then the other thing I need to start is just this tracker here. And alright, I think that's working. Alright. Starting engine 2.
Okay.
Alright. Nice to have some ATC. I was not expecting that at all. What a lovely, pleasant surprise. Alright.
Please set parking brakes.
Guys, let me know how the volume levels are too, if it's too quiet or too loud.
Unlocking gear.
While I'm focused on stuff, it's very hard for me to notice. What am I trying to say here? Yeah, like while I'm focused on stuff, it's very hard for me to notice the different volume levels. So, all right, so the parking brakes are set. You can confirm the pins are moved. Because yeah, I'm focusing. I'm really trying to focus on what's in front of me here. You almost need a multi-person. You need a multi-person crew to fly this airplane. You also need a multi-person crew to be able to run a good stream and have like be able to track things. Why that tug says Allegiant on it, I don't know.
Disconnected. Bypass pin removed.
All right, copy that. Refer to hand signals. Have a good day. Starting engine 1. Starting engine 1.
Okay.
All right, there they go. There's our pin guy. Thank you. All right, and he's gone as well. All right, and the engine is starting. Got some fuel flowing now. Oil is coming up. N2's indicating. I should have started the engine sooner, but I was just trying to make sure my trackers are all tracking too, because there's no point in doing this flight if it's not tracking what we're doing. All right, that looks good. Looks like engines 2 and 1 are normal. After start checklist.
Anti-ice.
Off.
Ecam status.
Both PFTs on the same pack. Center tank fuel usable. Capture single only. Capture dual is off. Act 2 is off. Center tank pumps 2. Checked.
Pitch trim.
Set and checked.
Rudder trim.
Rudder neutral. Neutral.
After start checklist completed.
All right, we can go ahead and request taxi. Miami JetBlue 172, ready taxi.
JetBlue 172 running 10 left taxi via Tango 5 Charlie.
10 left, we're going to taxi via Tango 5 Charlie, JetBlue 172. Tango 5 is this diagonal, Charlie is the outer of the two taxiways here. So basically, what we're pointed straight at is Tango 5. All right. Clear left. Clear left side.
Clear right side.
All right. Brakes off. Don't forget the... Okay, she's going to get it. I haven't flown with it for a while, so I wasn't sure if she was going to do it or not.
Take off runway. Take off
Cancel
runway
checklist.
confirmed. Approach path clear of traffic. Cabin crew be seated for takeoff.
Brake check.
Pressure 0.
I feel like that background noise make it a little quiet. So this is Tango 5 right here. So we're swinging to the left. Left turn for Tango 5. Around the silver ATR here. And then we're going to bear left onto Charlie. So it's not the 90-degree crossing here, but it's going to be the 45 to the left here right after it. And I can see the sign, looks like it does say Charlie over there as well. So that kind of confirms everything I think I know about this. At least my FS2 crew is working today. That helps to take some of the load off. Left turn here on Charlie. Flight control check.
Ready. Full up. Full down. Neutral. Full left. Full right. Neutral.
Rudder.
Full left. Full right. Neutral.
JetBlue 638, wind 09 to 14, gust 20, runway 10 right, clear to land.
JetBlue 63, control runway 10 right.
Taxi checklist.
Flight controls.
Checked.
Checked. Flap setting.
Config 1+F.
Config 1+F. Radar and predictive wind shear system.
On and auto.
Engine mode selector.
Normal.
Ecam Memo.
No blue.
Takeoff, no blue.
Taxi checklist completed.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board.
Flight deck captain speaking.
The cabin is now secure for takeoff.
Thank you. Really, engine.
Attention to the cabin crew for important safety
Takeoff Memo and engine.
instruction
I hate AI generated voices, I really do.
on this aircraft.
Get real people to read these things, honestly. I will volunteer to be a recorder for FS2 crew. I'll do it all the time. But for crying out loud, get people who actually know how to say the terms. What's in, like engine mode and takeoff Memo. I can't help but think of Meemaw. Can't help but think of Shelton's Meemaw when I hear that. It's hilarious. It's a little bit sad, but it's also hilarious. Alright, so it's going to be nav to 4,000 feet. For some reason, we lost the flight directors. I don't know why we lost the flight directors. I think she reset something on them. We got one FT1, climb blue, nav blue, V1 148, V2 150. Looks good. The one thing about this, and it's not necessarily a fault of the Fenix, but boy, you know, you need some very strong tension rudder pedals. The amount of force you need to actually press the rudder pedals in most airliners is crazy, and these little tiny springs that they put in most, you know, what am I trying to say? Not commercial grade, but like, you know, personal grade rudder pedals. Such tiny little springs that really have almost no force feedback here. All right, but I'd say we are ready to go now. We just need the lineup checklist. Holding short of 10 left for now. Miami, JetBlue 172, ready for departure, 10 left.
JetBlue 172. On Vermerly, runway 10 left, clear for takeoff. Pushing out the elbow.
And we've got Marley for JetBlue 172. Is that okay?
I'm sorry, I was right the first time. On Vermerly, runway 10 left, clear for takeoff.
Okay, perfect. Just making sure we're also right. 10 left, clear for takeoff, RNAV Marley, JetBlue 172. Runway entry procedure.
Takeoff runway confirmed. Approach path clear of traffic. Cabin crew be seated for takeoff.
Lineup checklist.
Takeoff runway.
10 left confirmed.
Runway 10 left confirmed. TCAS.
TARA.
Packs 1 and 2.
On.
Lineup checklist completed.
Manflex 61, SRS runway, auto thrust blue. Takeoff.
Checked. Thrust set. Check. knots. V1, rotate. Positive climb.
Gear up.
Gear up.
Nav. Autopilot 1. Climb, alt blue. Thrust climb, auto thrust. Speed managed. Miami departure, JetBlue 172, airborne 2,500, climbing 4,000, departed 10 left.
JetBlue 172, radar cancel, climb and maintain 13,000.
Climb maintain 13,000, JetBlue 172.
JetBlue 638, taxi via Tango, Quebec Tango 8, cushion, taxi via
Flaps 0.
Juliet, Hotel 5, Tango 8 to the ramp.
Speed checked. Flaps 0.
Alright, and we are airborne. I don't know if you guys noticed that there. There's the circuit breaker trip. Just getting those. Alright, ECAM actions. Circuit breaker trip, rear panel J to M. Let's just double check again. We think we know what it is, but don't assume. A second circuit breaker could have popped. It's always possible. Don't assume. I do see only one, so we can go ahead and clear CB. Clear CB. Status. Stop ECAM. Just make sure we are turning. We are turning here at Marley. We're outbound. We don't need the anti-ice. We got the procedures are all completed for the after takeoff stuff. Alright, continue ECAMs and status. Both PFDs on same fact. We know about that. Center tank fuel unusable. Cat 3 single only. Cat 3 duals in op. Fact 2's in op. Center tank pumps in op. That's all from before. Remove status. Remove status. No changes. ECAM actions are complete. I don't know if anybody else has noticed this. This is the one thing I noticed about Fenix is that the takeoff roll, for some reason now, she gets very bogged down in the takeoff roll. I've never noticed this too much in any other phase of flight substantially. But in the takeoff roll, I don't know if you noticed that, but the airspeed indicator basically froze. The airspeed tape froze for a couple of seconds there on the departure. And yeah, everything seems to be a little bit sluggish today. And I don't know if it's just because I'm recording or not, and it could well be. But everything does seem a little bit more sluggish than it should. I don't know if anything, I think it's just OBS that's just taking it all up there. But yeah, I've noticed that in the past, and it's a little bit frustrating that the speed tape drops off so much. And thank goodness that even as the displays are dropping off, the FO is still keeping up with it. And I'm not sure if that's Fenix per se, or if that's MSFS even. It could be that MSFS is just simply not displaying the updates that Fenix is trying to render as fast as Fenix wants to render them. And I've noticed that during the takeoff rolls seems to be the one place. And then you get airborne, and it runs perfectly smoothly after that. I mean, it's not perfectly smooth, but it's about as smooth as you can ask for. But for some reason during the takeoff roll, when you're super critical about speeds, is the one place where it seems to choke. And the speed tape is the one thing that you really notice is that it just stops moving for a couple seconds, and all of a sudden she says rotate, and you look down, it still says 110 knots, but you're actually at 148, but for some reason the speed tape's frozen. And of course, if you had that actual failure in the Fenix, you'd never know it because you're just kind of getting used to it. That's I don't know what it is. There's 10,000 climbing 3,000. Alright, so she's got lights off. Seatbelt's off. Looks like we're above everything now. Seatbelt's off. Let's see here. So we got guard up on number 2. I always turn this off because otherwise it confuses VPilot. VPilot doesn't understand there could be two different things there. So we do have guard up there, 21.5. That's up on number 2.
And the approach, good day, Turkish 86 Lima with you. Currently on
cabin's pressurizing, fuel 800 plus that's about 10,040, which is pretty much exactly where we started, so that's good, it's balanced.
Turkish 86 Lima, Miami approach ident.
And away we go.
Giant 8778, we're ready to go 9.
12 climbing 13,000.
RNAV Jamba, runway 9.
Roger.
RNAV Jamba 9, quick takeoff, Giant 8770 heavy. JetBlue 172, Miami center of line, radar service terminated, change your advise you.
Alright, off to the dark side, JetBlue 172, good day, thanks for the service.
Turkish 86 Lima, radar contact 25 miles from
Alright.
east of the Fort Lauderdale Airport. Climb and maintain
Flight level 350 set, roger 350, and we've got thrust climb all blue. So we almost level off at 13,000. We can go back to the Unicom now, 22.8, but nice to have ATC for the departure phase. Even if it's only short-lived, it's still nice to have that. It's very nice, a pleasant surprise. I was not expecting that, and even when I texted him and when I saw him come online, I'm like, oh, he's a Miami approach controller, but he's got a suffix. I think it was a Miami V approach, so I don't know what to think. I don't know to think if they will be online or not. If they will control this airport. I know in New York especially, they're very specific about which airports and which airspaces they control. So as often as not, when I text a controller and ask the question, they're like, nope, I don't control that airport. I only control this airport, which is fine. And I'm not going to complain. I wish they would control more. In a lot of cases, it's a question also of training. I know especially in New York, they have to step up through various different levels because there's so much to all the different airports and regions in the New York area that I get it. I get it. You can only focus on one area, but in the off periods especially, I think you could probably handle multiple multiple specialties, multiple different sectors. But at the same time, if you're not trained for it, and I get it, like there's a training hierarchy, and you start at kind of the quieter airports, and you work your way up through the various airports until you can handle the busiest ones. But even then, you don't want to get overloaded. So I get it. But at the same time, yeah, there's some things that sometimes you feel like people are taking a step backwards. And one of the things that's been bugging me a little bit lately about the VATSIM from the ATC side is, especially in VATCAN, we have a whole bunch of people who are hyper-focused on like a very super realistic ATC experience. And I'm not against that per se, you know, like they're very much like, I want the equipment to look exactly like the real world equipment. I want to do exactly what the real world controllers do. And yes, absolutely. I totally get that. And I kind of want that too, but there's a limit. We are in a simulation here. There's a limit. I would love to simulate this aircraft as realistically as possible, but this is a two-person airplane, and the best I have is a computerized first officer.
Standard cross-check. Passing flight level 182. Now.
Roger. You know, so there's got to be some give and take, some, you know, like there will have to be some sacrifices in the name of practicality. You know, like I could sit here and not do anything that the FO is supposed to do, and then try to fly the airplane that way, or you know, sit in the FO seat, not do anything the captain's supposed to do. But we never get off the ground because it's a team effort. You know, I applaud the people who want to do it realistically as possible, but I think there's a practical limit to that when you're dealing with what is just a simulation at the end of the day. It's not the real thing. It's just a simulation. And the one thing that's really kind of bugged me about it is that these guys are super hardcore about the exact boundaries being the exact boundaries of the real world controlling, and you can't do anything outside of that. And the one case in point, and it's a bit of a sore spot with me because I think it's a bad move, is the fact that Toronto and Montreal recently, the Toronto and the Montreal sectors recently signed a new letter of agreement, a new agreement that states that Toronto will no longer control Ottawa if Montreal's offline. Now, in the real world, the Ottawa terminal falls under the Montreal unit, and that's, you know, but on VATSIM, there was a long-standing policy, and it was a coded agreement that if Montreal was offline and Toronto was online, Toronto was allowed to control Ottawa because it's right on the boundary. You know, it's literally where the boundary is. It's literally, this is Toronto on one side, this is Montreal on the other side, and Ottawa's right here, just hovering on the Montreal side of the boundary. But it's right on the boundary, so it's not a huge stretch to ask a Toronto controller to control that area. They can see it clearly on the radar. You know, it's an area that right there, like it just, yeah. So for a long time now, for 15 years or more than 15 years, so for as long as I've been on the network, and I've been on the network for 15 years, that was the agreement, was that, hey, if Montreal's not online, yes, Toronto, why don't you go ahead and provide control service to Ottawa? It's right on the boundary of your airspace, so it's not like we're giving you like some other remote airspace that's far away. It's right there at the boundary. But it just gives better service to the pilots. And then just I think it was about a month ago, now, give or take, not even a month ago, a couple of weeks ago, they finally signed a letter, and for a long time they said this was going to be the policy going forward, was that they were going to take that privilege away, and Ottawa is only going to be controlled by Montreal, whether Montreal's offline or online or what. And it's been something that they've been talking about for like a year now, and they finally published the actual agreement, and they took it away. So for a long time, because the previous agreement was in force, I kept on controlling it because I thought it was better to provide the service than not provide the service. And that's my general feeling. It's like, okay, yeah, that is normally the boundary, but we're also here to provide good service to the pilots, at the best service we can. And there's not a lot of airline flights that you can do from Toronto to another airline airport, and not lose ATC when you get to the boundary of Toronto. Like a lot of ATC sectors will have multiple major airports that airlines fly to that you could actually do a flight within that sector, within that FIR or ARTC, and you know, have ATC the full way. And Toronto's one of the ones where that's not really the case. There's a few minor airports, but there's no real serious airline airports outside of Toronto where you could fly from one into the other, but Ottawa was the one where you could do it. It's a nice short flight. It's a very realistic hobby level flight. You can fly from one end to the other. So I always thought that was a fantastic policy. I really did. I thought it's just a chance for the Toronto controllers to do a little bit more, because sometimes you do get bored if there's not enough activity going on. You get a little bit bored. But also on the flip side of it, it provides better service to pilots. You get continuous service from wheels up to wheels down, from gate to gate, if you're going from Toronto to Ottawa or Ottawa to Toronto. And now they've taken that away. And the explanation I was given was, well, Ottawa's a training airport for the Montreal area now, so they have it staffed pretty regularly. But it's one of those cases where, like, why change the policy? It didn't change anything. It doesn't change anything. If Montreal was online, then they would control it. The only time Toronto would control it was when nobody from Montreal, whether it be a training controller or not, was online in Ottawa. And then they would take it over and provide the service in lieu of the Montreal controllers. They weren't. At no point was the Toronto controller taking over from the Montreal controller or preventing a Montreal controller from logging on and controlling there. So I find the argument at best it's a very weak argument. Oh, well, they're providing pretty good service a lot of the time now. Are they on 24/7? Nobody's on 24/7 on this network. So, I'm certainly one that argues for, let the controllers do more. I mean, for crying out loud, it's the whole basis of the network, If Toronto Centre's online and no other controllers around are online, then Toronto Centre provides the role of Toronto Centre, Toronto Arrival, Toronto Departure, Toronto Tower, Toronto Ground, Toronto Clearance Delivery. All those things take over all these different roles. That's the whole nature of VATSIM. We recognize that we don't have a real-world level of traffic, so one controller can often play many roles to, provide a whole top-down service and play many roles. So, to me, the argument that, well, Montreal controls it enough now falls very flat. Yes, they control it more than they used to, and it's been online a lot lately, but what about those times when it's not? Why can we not provide the service to pilots when it's not? So that's just, it's been a real kind of just, not pain point, but just a real source of frustration. I feel like the network is moving backwards in so many ways. Certainly VATCAN has been kind of moving backwards for a little while. I feel like it's, there was a bit of a schism for the last several years between the super realistic people who really love, like, absolutely, like, this is exactly how the real world does it, and you have to do it exactly that way, and the other guys who came on, and they're here for fun, and they're here to control, but they don't want to spend 30 or 40 hours a month studying to make sure that they're up on all the absolute latest procedures and they can nail everything right off the bat. There's people who are doing it as a hobby, and this is the thing about VATSIM, is that we have to realize that there are different levels of people. Yes, we kind of want a minimum level of competence, but above that, the people who want to go above and beyond, and I'm talking like way above and beyond, should they kick off the people who are just meeting the minimum spec because they're doing this for fun, they're doing this for hobby, they're doing this to relax at the end of a long day, and they don't want to put in dozens of hours of studying a month to try and keep up with the people who are way up here? Should this be a network for only these people? Or should we try to meet somewhere, not even meet somewhere in the middle, but just compromise and say we recognize that these people and these people both want similar things. Why does one group get favored over another? And it feels like for a long time there was a schism kind of in Canada between the super hyper realistic people and the, I'm doing this for fun and I enjoy doing it, but I'm not gonna kill myself to try and make the most realistic experience possible. And it felt like these people were winning. The super hyper realistic people were winning, and they're reshaping the network, and it's not always in a good way. Another big pain point and a big pet peeve of mine, and again, this comes back to Toronto and the way Toronto's been running lately, is this whole Toronto satellite controller, approach controller, not approach controller position that is so confusing. And I think there needs to be some better nomenclature. I'm just trying to think of how to kind of articulate what my frustrations, but basically what it comes down to is that part part of it comes down to a problem with documentation. There's changes being made that are sort of just being spread by word of mouth, and there's no documentation, there's no charts, there's no procedures. It's just sort of being spread by word of mouth. That, first of all, is a huge problem, because this is a network where people are not all online at the same time. People are not all talking to each other all the time, and this lack of communication, this lack of official communication, and just sort of informal changes happening is also extremely frustrating to try and deal with, because some people are online a lot and hear about these changes, and some people are not online as much and they don't hear about these changes, or they're on at different times. I'm mostly a daytime kind of network person. I'm not an evening network when most people show up, so I'll say that I don't hear about a lot of these changes, and or get a chance to get explained a lot of these changes. So, but if we're going to implement these changes, like, the first thing is we need to document them and explain what they are, and set them down in black and white. And so the other bone of contention is this Toronto terminal position, which has an approach controller's call sign. The other thing that's confusing about it, and I find it very confusing, is that they've switched from having a CYYZ approach to a TOR approach, which I found that confusing to begin with. I kind of understood the TOR call sign for center, but for the approach controller position, I don't think it makes much sense, because now it's very confusing. So you have all these TOR approach controllers. You have the normal approach position in Toronto, which actually handles arrivals and departures from Toronto Pearson. But then you have these satellite approach positions, WS, West Satellite, ES, East Satellite, which don't control the arrivals and departures from Toronto. There's 34 climbing 35.
1,000 to go.
Roger. So you have these two positions that control the satellite airports, so not the main primary Pearson, but all the other smaller airports around Toronto. But because they are TOR and they're an approach suffix, everyone thinks that they control Toronto. So over and over again, I hear it all the time. They've got to say it 10 times if they say it once. I don't control Toronto Pearson. You'll have to call the center controller, or you'll have to just use Unicom, because I don't control that. So it creates it sows an incredible amount of confusion on the network. That's the problem. Mach Alt Star. Because you get pilots like every day. Every time these guys log out onto these positions, and what it is it's a training position. It's the radar training position. So before you go and handle the big airport, you handle the smaller satellite airports. You learn how to do vectors, approach clearances, Mach Alt cruise, all that sort of stuff without what am I trying to say here? Without the heavy traffic load of doing simultaneous approaches into parallel runways in Toronto and that sort of thing. So it's a training position. So you get people who are on this position quite often because they're trying to get some hours, get some practice in, and half of their transmissions, I swear, for the 3 hours that they're on are, I don't control Toronto, you have to depart on Unicom, I only control the satellite airports. And they say it over and over again. They put it in their controller notes. A lot of pilots don't bother to read the controller notes, so then they just see Toronto blank approach, Toronto, XX approach, and they call them up and ask for clearance and ask for departure and tell them they're arriving, and they have to say it over and over again. So there's a huge amount of frustration with that, and I think we could come up with better ways to do this. One thing that was done in the past it was labeled as a London approach position, London, Ontario, so that way it was it showed up differently. It would circle the CYXU airport, and people would see that and say, oh yeah, that's not CYYZ, that isn't relevant to me, and they wouldn't call. But the fact that they've made this TOR arrival call sign makes it incredibly confusing. And the other side of it too is the other side that I found very confusing, and I'm sorry I have to rant on this, but it really has become a real bone of contention for me, is that this position, the responsibilities of this position have shifted over and over again, and there's no documentation about it. There's no documentation about which airports it covers. There's no documentation about which airports it doesn't cover when XX controllers are online. If the arrival controller is online, if they're not online, which airports do I cover, which airports don't I cover? There's no documentation about this. There was one document that was kind of written, and then they're like, no, actually, we're not going to do it that way, and nothing's replaced it, except for word of mouth. So I find myself constantly asking people, like, hey, so does this mean that you're going to control this? Does this mean I'm going to control this? Because, like, there's no there's no published documentation to clarify what the situation is. So I find that there are some things that have been going well, but there are some things that have really been taking a step backwards. And I think, first of all, documentation has always been a problem online because someone's got to write this documentation. And yeah, I could volunteer to write it and solve the problem. The trouble is, I don't want to because I disagree with it in principle, I think. So I don't want to kind of support it by writing the documentation. I'm complaining without coming up with solutions, and maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I should not complain if I don't have a solution, because I tell my kids not to do that. I tell my kids, if you don't have a solution to the problem, just quit complaining about it. But yeah, I feel like it's also just more indicative of an overall trend where we're moving away from trying to provide the best service possible and instead trying to hammer down details and make it more bureaucratic rather than provide the best service possible. And there is a training hierarchy and there is a hierarchy to things that have to be done, but I just feel like we're more worried about the bureaucracy and the minutia of it than in the actual provision of good service to pilots or to anybody. I think that's driving at least some people away from it. I think that's making some people have a less than stellar experience with it, which is a shame, because I really do think it's what am I trying to say? I really do think we have like a lot of potential to have some really fantastic FIRs, but like I said, I just think we're taking some steps backwards in terms of yeah, it seems to be endemic, certainly this removal of responsibilities. Oh, well, normally that's controlled by this other division, so you can't control that even if they're offline. And I think it's just foolish. I think that there's other agreements that have moved in the right direction, and I think that they need to be maintained, and I'm worried that even these ones might disappear. There's one that's been a long-standing agreement. Again, Toronto, because it's my home ATC base, I can talk about it a lot. But Toronto has an agreement with Boston that if Cleveland's not online, Boston's a very popular sector and a very popular destination between Boston and New York. Toronto's a very popular sector, so we would often be online more than Cleveland was, and we'd often both be online, Toronto and Boston, when Cleveland was not. So we made this agreement that if we're not online, we'll keep control of airplanes until they're about halfway across Cleveland's airspace, and then we'll hand them directly to the other guy, rather than hand them to Unicom just to have them get pinged by another controller 15 minutes later. Why? What's the point? Why do that? So, yeah, this was something that was kind of informally done for a long time that was finally codified to an agreement, and we did get Cleveland sign off on it. They were like, yeah, if we're not online, sure, do it. We don't mind as long as you hand the airplanes to us when we do come online. And everyone's like, yeah, of course we're going to do that. It's just filling in a little gap. It's just closing the gap when you guys are not online. And I feel like we're going to move away from that. The trend that's been going on in a lot of VATCAN has been taking away extra responsibilities. It's not my airspace, it's somebody else's airspace, so let them deal with anything that happens in there. And not only is that, I feel like it's cutting back on the responsibility of the controllers to the point where the controllers have nothing to do, but also it's just confusing to the pilots. The number of times I have to call somebody up and say, yeah, you're actually not in my airspace, because that's only low-level airspace for me, not high-level airspace. For high-level, it belongs to the other guy who's not online, but I'm not allowed to control that space, even if he's not online. And I, as a controller, I will often just shortcut that anyways, just say, screw it, I'm going to control it anyways. Unfortunately, it's pretty black and white that the Ottawa thing's gone, but certainly when you get to talk about high-level versus low-level boundaries, I tend to fudge that corner a lot. Of course, if the other guy's online, I will absolutely send them the airplane when they're supposed to be there. But if they're not, if the other chasing sector's not online, why not? Yeah, it's just about providing a little bit more service to the pilots and trying to get a little bit more complete end-to-end service. But anyways, yeah, I should probably stop ranting about that. That turned into a much longer rant than I ever anticipated. It was not on my topics of things to talk about, but it has been a pain point for me lately. I feel like things are shifting, and not in a way that makes it positive for anybody, except for the people who want to be absolutely hyper-realistic, down to the minute, down to the mile. You must go to Unicom now at this time. That's my most hated phrase on VATSIM is, switch to Unicom. I hate saying that because it's not realistic in almost every case, except for when someone's doing a landing at an uncontrolled airport. Then it's realistic. But for the guys en route, I hate saying switch to Unicom. I understand why we have to do it. I understand there's not enough controllers around, but it's my most hated phrase. I just feel like I've disappointed them when I send them to Unicom. So I try not to. If there's a way I can not do it, yeah, it's a personal goal of mine anyways. Okay, we leveled off a little while ago. Is that takeoff time realistic? I feel like that takeoff time was realistic there. So I see in the clock here in the corner, we've got 40 minutes. It looks like my FO Luca may have set that to run at the appropriate time. So we're going to assume that's probably correct. And let's just do a quick little sim brief. There it is. Okay, so let's go to the flight log. And if we took off 40 minutes ago and it's 66, that means we took off at 16:16, which is reasonable, I think, considering we were leaving the gate, yeah, about 10 after. Yeah, I think that's very reasonable. So 16:16, so let's just do this. 16, oh my god, 16:18. This might not be an easy thing to do with the number of SIDs, the number of waypoints on the SID here. 16:26, 16, 33. I think we were leveled off after 16.1, but 16. Maybe that was not a realistic time. Maybe that was the engine start time. Because we're not going to be at ETEC till 16:03. 16:03? Oh, 15. That was 15:20. I can't see the other part of the digit. That's actually a 50. Okay. I don't think that's right. I think that she must have started the clock when we left the gate. But normally you would start the clock at the start of the flight. Try to record the flight time would make more sense. So 15:50, 16:03. So I can't say for sure that's going to be accurate. 7.5 over ETEC, though, seems realistic. We got 7.8. We got 40 miles to go. That seems realistic. So I think that's going to be right. So I'm going to work forward from that and say 16:03. And we'll just track the trend thereafter. 16:10, 16:23. 16:37. So the one thing today, of course, is that the weather's not great in New York. You probably won't actually see too much scenery because the weather's kind of lousy in New York. Hopefully we get in. Hopefully we don't have to divert to Philly. We did bring a fair bit of extra weather gas with us. So we should have enough fuel to make 2 kicks at the can when we get there. At least 2, and probably more than 2, realistically. When your waypoints are 1 minute apart, you have too many of them. Literally. 1 minute apart each. Too many waypoints. Yeah. $17.48, $17.53. It's not a bad estimate. That seems like more realistic. So the clock must have been started when we started engines. Okay. Anywho, yeah. So let's just do a quick little status check here. Quick little weather check. Oh, weather doesn't exist in this, does it? No, it does not. Ah, I got myself there. Nope. That's the one. So I can open this in charts, and I can use this. Alright, so there we are. So we haven't even quite reached the end of the SID yet at ETEC, but we are getting there. But yeah, it's an offshore routing a day to get us from South Florida up to New York. So we are going to kind of come back ashore in the Carolinas and then up the Hertz arrival there. It's a nice long arrival too, really, when you look at it. We're going to be there before you know it. But yeah, let's just have a quick look at the weather, and it's actually not too bad. So we were looking at layers. Yeah, radar. So there's really not too much showing up on the weather radar here. A little bit of stuff offshore, but really not too much on the weather radar at all. I just try and remove some layers from this because it just seems like there's... There, that's a little bit nicer. But yeah, so there's not too much weather really en route, certainly in terms of precipitation. What we do have, however, is we do have the further north we get, we are definitely getting more cloud cover. No, the cloud cover's not very... Cloud cover 220. Aha. Let's take this down to 10,000, 1,000 here. We are getting some cloud cover over there. We are getting some lower visibilities. Some airmets, some sigmets, all sorts of stuff here. Low-level turbulence, IFR conditions, turbulence 25 to 35,000. What if I was to... remove the cloud cover first of all. There we go, and then I can just remove these. So I don't need TS, don't need a volcanic ash. Let's just check for turbulence here. So there's some turbulence there. 9,000, 25,000 to 30,000, surface to 9,000. There's some low-level turbulence. There is a little bit of icing sigmets. Mostly there's IFR conditions all up and down the coast. It is really low ceilings. It's not bad actually in LaGuardia now. It lifted. Look, it's gone green. It was a lot worse recently, but if we can just check the METAR, it's up to 10 miles few at 900, so it was like broken at 900 or even overcast 900, so it's starting to clear out. So actually we may actually get a decent view of New York when we land there. It is forecast to clear out a little bit as we go here, but yeah, we did bring quite a bit of extra weather fuel with us just to help with the trucking around there, just in case we end up having to do a missed approach for any reason. Now we're crossing E-Tech. Now we're crossing E-Tech at 1603 with 7.6 in the tanks. So I think that actually puts fuel there. Where are we here? E-Tech 1603, right on time. And 7.6 is 100 kilos up on the fuel, so that's good. So we're moving in the right direction. We have good positive trend on the fuel. We're up a little bit above the plan. I love it. What else are we going to talk about here? Let's just have a look and see if we can clear out that company message there. It's probably just a request for a delay code. Maybe I'll call the JetBlue Ops wants to know, send ADC for delays. Yeah, they want to know why we were so delayed. And the real reason is because I set unrealistic goals. And I don't think I set a totally unrealistic goal. I originally said I was going to start the stream at 9:20, and I was just about ready to start at 9:20 except for my coffee, which was not ready, so then I had to wait for that to be ready. So yeah, if I started at 9:20, if I started at 10 minutes sooner, started all the prep 10 minutes sooner, I think I probably would have been a little better. So anywho, yeah. Anyways, let's see, what else can we talk about here? What has happened recently? I'm trying to think. I was actually looking at this website. Was it this morning? Was it yesterday morning? So iflyschedules.com. So if anybody has seen this or not, but it's. I saw this recently, and it's an interesting little. It's an interesting little website here. So, basically, it's a schedule generator, is what it is. So you can pick your airline, Specifically, pick your aircraft type. So let's say we want to do the whole 320 family trip type, continuous round trip. You can enter a start or departure arrival airport, flight length. Let's see, 5 hours. Number of legs, 6. And I think that's I'm pretty sure that's a maximum. And then you just do search, and it comes up with a whole. No, actually, maybe it's. Oh, you know what? Haha. 1 to 3 legs. And you can do an out and back, or you can do a continuous round trip, and it gives you it just comes up with a random route for you to fly based on the actual airline's schedules. So I didn't specify any airports, so it wanted me to go and do a 5-hour day going from Las Vegas to Boston, and Boston to, not a 5-hour day, but 2 5-hour legs. Las Vegas, Boston, Boston down to TNCA, so 2 very long legs. But if you search again, it'll come up with something random. So it just comes up with stuff kind of at random here. So now it's come up with a 3-leg day, 5 hours, 3 hours, 3 hours. So San Francisco, Boston, Boston, Fort Lauderdale, back to Boston. So it's a bit like a pilot's life. A little bit less rules, a little bit less profile kind of thing, or just about, hey, just give me some random routes based on the real world. Now, of course, if you wanted to be specific, or start at a specific space, or end at a specific space, you could do that. What if round trip will do it any differently here? Unable to generate response. Please use different criteria. Boston, TXKF, Boston. So I put the arrival and I put a round trip, so it gave me 1 round trip here. You can just do a continuous out of Boston with no destination specified, and it'll give you something kind of random. 3 legs, Boston, JFK, Boston, Boston, Raleigh, Durham. So if you're one of those people who sits there and sometimes doesn't know what to do, what cargo airlines does it have? Aerologic, FedEx, and UPS. If you're one of those people that kind of sits there sometimes and doesn't know what to do, it's a really interesting. It's just a way of generating schedules based on real world flights, and you can put in any criteria you want. You can specifically lay it down to a certain family. I wonder if I don't even oh yeah, you can have operator be any, and literally say, okay, find me maximum 3-hour legs. Let's say 1 to 3 hour legs. In 1 to 3 legs, no airport specified. Required airports. Oh shoot! Not what I meant to do. Save. Anywho, save through my cookies. But see, now I've got viewling here. Got a round trip there. Let's do a search again. It'll come up with something completely different at random. So it's just it's a neat little random flight generator, is what it is. Still very much kind of in a beta phase. But just a new way to kind of generate stuff. Interesting how it switches. It keeps the continuous flight, but it switches airlines even as you go. That's interesting. I would probably not want to do that, but I mean, you could select the airline you want to work with and just say, hey, Emirates, let's say 10 plus hours, 2 legs, any. And then, of course, we end up with a round trip out of Dubai. But yeah. Neat little website. One of the things I kind of thought that was kind of neat about this was standby. So standby duration 6 hours. Let's say I work for the A320 family, and let's say I'm based in Boston, and start standby. And it's an interesting idea. Want to receive flight assignments, so you don't get anything initially, but at some point you keep this open, and you might get a flight assignment. It's an interesting concept. I don't know how you would necessarily want to use it or when you'd want to use it. Because, like, for me, it's like if I sit down and I want to fly, I want to, I'm at the sim now. I want to fly now. I don't want to wait on standby. I mean, this is the real world here. I mean, you do have pilots that sit at home on standby waiting for a phone call to come to the airport and go do something, for sure. As a hobby, that's a weird thing to do because you don't want to be, like, standing by. Like, unless you're doing something around your house, you're like, I would like to go flying when somebody tells me to. I mean, it's not... it's an interesting way of kind of, again, simulating that airline life, having a standby assignment. I'm curious if anything's going to pop up. I haven't played with this function too much. This is a brand new feature, the standby feature. But I'm curious. I'm just going to start this and leave this running and see if anything pops up, populates before we're done here. But anyways, it's another one of those kind of random flight generators. The thing is that's kind of nice that I do like about it is some of the options. So I'm going to leave this standby open here, and I'm just going to go back to the schedule generator here. But the options you can have here. So, you know, you're sitting on the ground in Fort Lauderdale, and you want to, you know, you want to do a 2-leg day that ends in LaGuardia on the 320 family. Let's say, again, let's go with JetBlue. Where's my JetBlue? There's my JetBlue. 320 family. And so you know where you start, you know where you want to end, or maybe you want to go to the Friday night off. So the fact that you don't have to, but you can set some constraints and parameters here. Wow, 2 to 6 legs, and it came up with 6 legs. Fort Lauderdale, DCA, TCA, PPI, PPI, LaGuardia, MCO, MCO, LaGuardia. Up and down the East Coast, because I only said, let's say I want to say exactly 2 legs. And there's no 2 legs that'll get me from Fort Lauderdale to LaGuardia. What if I was to do 3 legs? Fort Lauderdale, LaGuardia, LaGuardia, Fort Lauderdale, Fort Lauderdale. Anyways, it's an interesting way to kind of generate schedules. Anybody call me on standby yet? No. Okay. Yeah. Again, I am in this boat sometimes. Sometimes I sit there and I'm like, literally, I'll boot up in an airport, and I might kind of have something in mind because there was ATC there, and then the ATC disappears, right? So then you're like, do I still want to do that flight, or do I want to do something else? Or maybe you only have an hour to go flying. Maybe you only have an hour to go flying, and you work for Frontier. You want to do something that is 0 to 2 hours. Just a single leg, 0 to 2 hours. I don't even, and let's say I was sitting in, I don't know. I don't even know Frontier, I don't even know where. Let's do Denver's, because I know Frontier's kind of based in Denver. And I have my A320 booted up. Boom. Find me a flight. Just take the first one I see. I don't care where it is. Denver, Detroit, 2 hours and 47 minutes. It's a little bit longer than I specified, but anyways. You could even hit search multiple times to kind of come up with stuff. 248. I thought I was limiting myself to 2 hours here. This seems like it's not really limiting me very well here. Salt Lake City, 137. That's a little bit more realistic, but anyways. Neat idea, anyways. This flight generator. I'm curious to see what this does, so we'll circle back to that at the end of the stream and see if I've been assigned anything. Anyways, what else can we talk about here? So, yeah. One thing I can do, if I can bring this up here as well. So let me just see if I can pull this up. Give me 1 second here, because I just wanted to show you guys something else we got going here. So let's see here. Yeah, there we go. Kind of works. Sure, why not? And there we go. Now we're going into infinity there. But yeah, so this is just a quick overview of course, what is new on the flight deck. And can I turn it this way? Does that make it better? That makes it better. Anyways, if I turn my tablet that way. But there we go. I've got my MiniEFIS, and it does come with a nice little stand down here, which is actually kind of nice. So for all the Kickstarters and the early adopters, you get this nice little stand that puts this at what is supposedly the exact angle that the Airbus flight deck is at. But it's a very nice. It's a very nice piece of kit, and it does really work quite well. So just to play with it a little bit here, you can of course switch the altimeter setting, go back to standard. Trying to do my fingers here. localizer push button goes on and off. All these push buttons work completely. And of course you could do the range. You can play with the range as much as you want. These switches also work, and the chrono timer also works. So if you see there at the bottom of the ND, you'll see that the timer started, stop. These all function. It's a very simple piece of kit in terms of what it actually does, but the altimeter setting, the range knob, these are some of the most commonly used controls in the flight deck away besides the FCU itself, that like having these, again, having those at my disposal, and especially the chronometer too, is something that you actually do end up using a fair bit when you're flying. And sometimes you'll use it for the simplest things too. So sometimes you'll actually start it just when you put the seatbelt sign on. And it's just a visual cue on the screen that the seatbelts are on, and also a little timer for you, like how long have the seatbelts been on. And you might even start it when it smooths out and say, okay, I'm going to give it 5 minutes. And once it's been smooth for 5 minutes, we'll take the seatbelt sign off. So it's silly things like that, but it is something that does actually get used a fair bit. So very simple little system, but very nice to have. Really kind of feels like it completes this Airbus flight deck there. And then when you throw on top of it that you've got the Thrustmaster quadrant. Yes, it's under here, but pretty much when I put my arm on here, it's at just the right angle that I don't really notice it's under there. Unfortunately, the way I have my desk laid out, it's a little bit too close together to sort of have it separately. And I could put myself higher. The only trouble with that is that in order to get it like high enough, you have to be like, if you were to put this on here, you'd have to put your chair up super high to kind of feel, because yeah. So I ended up buying these little tables from IKEA. They're very small, simple little metal tables from IKEA that are just the perfect size to kind of put my to put the side stick and the throttle quadrant on. Because otherwise, like, you don't want them like way up here, because then your arm's gonna be, you're gonna be way too high. You're gonna be like sitting, with your arms like way up here at shoulder height, and these controls are definitely not at shoulder height. Okay, not quite at shoulder height, but close to it. So trying to find like that happy medium, I haven't quite found it yet. But yeah. Anyways, that I'm very happy with that. It arrived. It arrived pretty quickly. Like I said, it was about 3-4 days after I ordered it that it was in my hands. I think I ordered it on the Saturday, shipped on Monday morning, and was in my hands on Wednesday. Like the included shipping from Hong Kong, it's FedEx shipping. I think I ended up paying a $30 duty on it, so not too much duty, but all things considered, like a very reasonable price. And yeah, comes with let's see if I can just show it here, but yeah, you can just see like there's one bracket there that you put between the two to link the two together. It's an L-shaped bracket that also I can't quite crank this around enough, but it's an L-shaped bracket that linked the two together there, so it's all run through the one USB cord. There's not a second USB cord. You have to have the MiniFCU to run the MiniEFIS. The MiniFCU is an integral part of the MiniEFIS, and it requires it for control. But it's very slick. It's very smooth. It does everything it's supposed to. For some reason, it won't focus anymore for me, but that's okay. But anyways, I just thought I would share that, because I'm very happy with that. It's a very simple piece of kit, but I think it was definitely, if you're a big Airbus fan and you want to fly the Airbus, totally worth it. The FCU was totally worth it, 100% worth it. I can't, the FCU, I can't even describe how worth it that was. That was absolutely fantastic. It was probably the best money I ever spent. It was a little bit pricey, and it wasn't even that pricey, all things considered, because I did get it through the Kickstarter. The shipping wasn't included at the time, so the shipping ended up being almost another $100 to ship it. That was a little pricey. I'm glad they've kind of sorted out the shipping and found ways to make the shipping more cost effective, because I thought the shipping originally was a little bit on the expensive side. So the way they've done it now is much better. But yeah, just the interactivity, the reaction of it, the fact that you have the numbers on the dial as well, so you can see what you're doing. The button, everything just works the way it's supposed to. Yeah. I cannot say enough things about the MiniFCU. MiniFCU was a fantastic purchase. If you really like the Airbus, if you like flying the Airbus, hands down, it's a winner. The only thing I will say for it, or the only thing I will question about it, and it's a question, it's an open-ended question, is what's its long-term reliability going to be? Pushing and pulling and all the switches, the customized knobs and switches that are in here, how long are they going to last for? That's the other side of my equation. That's what I kind of wonder a lot of the time is, are they going to last? You know, is it going to be something that's going to be with me for 5 or 10 years? Because a lot of my other peripherals have lasted that long. I've had the rudder pedals I've had for I don't know how long now, probably 8 to 10 years, I would think. Certainly my Setyp yoke, I've had that for probably close to 10 years. And the Honeycomb Bravo quadrant I haven't had for that long, probably about 3 or 4 years. These things have all been pretty reliable for the most part. The Setyp throttle quadrant, they did start to get some noise and start to get a little annoying after a while, which is part of the reason why I bought the Honeycomb, was to improve the reliability of that. But yeah, so that's the only thing I kind of wonder about, is what's the longevity of it. And the other thing that is, I will say that for anyone who does plan on getting this, you do need a mount solution for your Mini FCU. It comes with suction cups. The suction cups, though, I find are not really good enough, and maybe it's just because my desk has too much texture to it. Yeah, because you're constantly, because of the push-pull functionality, you have to have some way of preventing it from moving back and forth. So if you just mount it on there, it's not a huge amount of force, but it's enough that it could easily overcome the suction cups if it's not a great seal. So what I ended up doing was, of course, I ended up screwing it into my desk here. I figured it's going to be something I'm going to have in there a lot. So there's one screw there. For the Mini FCU, there's the second screw hole. So there's screw holes on the bottom of the Mini FCU. I had 2 screws in there, and you could drop it on there, slide it to one side, and it would stay in there. And there was a little bit of play to it. And even right now there's a little bit of play to it. But it was solid enough that you could push and pull stuff. And yes, okay, it might shift a very slight amount, but you could definitely pull and push with a natural amount of force, and it wouldn't move. Like when I first had the suction cups on there, I'd find I had to like use 2 hands, because I'd have to grab it with one hand to prevent it from moving while I'm going back and forth with the controls. So I found that was a little bit awkward in the beginning, but once I mounted it directly to the desk with 2 screws, it had a little bit of play back and forth to it, but in general it was really solid after that. And same thing with this. Like you can see, like if I move this whole thing, it does move back and forth a little bit, but I do have a screw here, and I do have a screw down here under this support as well. So both supports have a screw in there, and they are little slotted holes. So I could actually pop this off with just leave the screws there if I wanted to, but it's not really in the way. My keyboard's over here, the mouse is over on the other side of it. It's not really in the way, so I think I don't see that as ever being really a problem. Anywho. Yeah. I was still very happy with that. That, I think, was the MiniEFIS is a nice purchase. It's a nice thing to have. It's not the be-all and end-all. I think the Mini FCU definitely has more value overall, but that was the one thing I kind of did find myself reaching for, was I did find myself reaching up for the altimeter, reaching up for the range knob on a very regular basis. That should be in airport mode, by the way. Yeah, so I was very happy with the MiniEFIS, and like I said, like the delivery window was great. I know Mini Cockpit has had some issues with just keeping up with demand more than anything, and I think they've worked through most of that at this point now. So the last newsletter I saw, which was only a couple days ago, they said that everyone who was on the original wait list that didn't get an original one had received notice that there was enough stock to fill the wait list. So I think every 2 weeks they were getting like another 1,000 units or something delivered or not delivered, but like 1,000 units into the warehouse from the manufacturing side. So every 2 weeks they produce another 1,000 units, and then they'd ship them off en masse. The nice thing was, I will say this, that they refused to take orders for things they didn't have in stock. So they would take you on the wait list. They wouldn't actually take an order if they couldn't fulfill it at the time, which is kind of nice. It's because they don't, it's nice that they're not taking your money either when they're not ready to ship it. So you still have time to change your mind, that sort of thing. Is it frustrating that they couldn't meet the demand level? Yeah, but I really want to look at this as they are a very small scale manufacturer. They're a very niche product, and not a cheap niche product either. It's a very specific, it's a relatively high end niche product. It's not a it's not something that's going to have a lot of mass appeal, so they have to make sure that they're going to be able to sell the units they produce. So I pity's not the right word, but I do empathize with their business model of trying to not produce an excess number of units, not trying to flood the marketplace with it, and basically have to pay to store extra inventory. Is it frustrating? Yes, absolutely. I mean, I was there, and they said they were going to launch their website, like, launch their sales at like 10 a.m. I think on the one particular day or whatever it was, and I was there at like, I was on the website at like 10:30 or 9:30, and there was nothing there. And then like at 9:55, I hit refresh on it, and it's already up for sale. So they put it up for sale a few minutes ahead of what was scheduled. And by like quarter after, everything, the first batch of units was sold out. So yeah, it's frustrating. It's great to see that they have that kind of support and demand for their product. And I think there is a lot of demand for this product. It's not an expensive product, all things considered. It's basically the cost of the sim, but hopefully this outlasts a couple of computers anyways. Yeah. Definitely a worthwhile investment, though. If you like the Airbus, you like flying the Airbus, it's so nice to get away from mouse clicking everything. I get such a sore elbow if I have to fly an entire flight with just the mouse. Clicking on stuff and even doing these streams, it wears on me a little bit because I don't use my tablet, because I try to do everything on the MCDU on screen using the mouse just so you can see what I'm actually clicking. But when I'm using my tablet, I just pull up the MCDU on the tablet and I just start typing away on that, and that's that's how I do most of my typing, is just do it on the tablet, where it's a lot more realistic. It's a lot less clicking, constantly clicking everything. You do have to tap things, but it's a different motion than trying to always click everything on the screen with the mouse, and then trying to get the precision with the mouse and then not quite hitting the click spot. Yeah, it's a much more realistic way to interface with the airplane. Alright, I'm just going to have a quick look over here. Anybody else logged on VATSIM? Looks like the Miami controller logged off. No New York controllers. No surprise there. Pity, but no surprise. Trying to think what else happened recently of any interest. Can't think of too much else really. It's been a little bit quiet. I mean, obviously 2024's big launch was really big. The dust seems to have settled over that. The Asobo team have apologized vigorously multiple times for the debacle that was day one of 2024. But yeah, I think their apology has fallen a little bit on deaf ears. I think they lost a big portion of the gaming crowd when they couldn't get in. They're like, to heck with this. I'm not going to bother wasting my time trying to get into this game that obviously is never going to let me in. And then they lost a portion of the major simming crowd as well that just said the same thing. Said, I'm not going to waste my time. My time is limited. My hobby time is limited. I'm not going to waste 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes trying to log into a server just to play with my simulator, when I only have 2 hours to play. Like, I don't want to waste a third or a quarter or a half of my sim time just trying to get in. So, and what's interesting is I've read both sides of the equation for people who like and dislike the more both sides of the equation for people who dislike the career mode in the new simulator. I've read people who dislike it because it's too much effort, it's too much grinding, and it locks away too much stuff into the grind that, it's supposed to be a simulator. I'm supposed to be able to get in and do what I want with it, but I can't seem to get into these. I have to work so hard to get to these advanced missions, and the one guy who really made a lot of comments to this effect was a helicopter simmer who said, I believe it was Heli Simmer, that basically said, like, I want to get in there and start flying helicopter missions, and it made me jump through all the hoops of getting a fixed wing license and doing a whole slew of like 40 or 50 hours worth of fixed wing missions before I could finally unlock a helicopter, when all I want to fly is helicopters. That's the only thing I want to fly, and that is a very unrealistic progression, because helicopter license and airplane license are very different things, and you can get one before the other, but in general you get one and you kind of stick with it. You're either a helicopter pilot or a fixed wing. You can do both, and people do cross over, and it happens for sure. But this idea that you have to be a fixed wing pilot before you can become a helicopter pilot is just ridiculous. They're so different. Most helicopter pilots start out as helicopter pilots, and they never touch a fixed-wing aircraft in their life. They just fly helicopters. So this whole idea that you have to do like a whole ton of missions in a fixed-wing aircraft to get to the helicopter he was complaining that it was too much of a grind to even do the one thing he wanted to do, which was some helicopter missions, because he's a helicopter pilot. He likes flying helicopters. On the other side of it, I've read other complaints that say that 2024 is a great simulator, but it's a terrible game. The game does not have enough gamey aspect to it, and that sounds like a complaint of the Xboxers. And I've started to read this more and more too in a number of places, not just in the simulator now, but I've read more and more about people who are complaining about games that are designed for the console crowd. Not games that are designed for the console crowd, but games that are adapted for the console crowd. And you end up with things like, menus that have huge buttons that take up. There's only like 4 buttons on the menu, and they take up a quarter of the screen each because the gamers, that's the from across the room, that's the resolution you're working at, and you need these things. But like, you end up with you often end up with these interfaces that are very clunky for someone who's got a bigger screen, who's more dialed in. And this is one of my complaints about this sim too, is that there's very little you can access in the sim. And I mean, I've got all these kind of different options available here, but like, especially when you're dealing with like the default menu across the top. I have the Flow Essentials menu here, obviously, but when you're dealing with the default menu, a lot of stuff like activating doors and changing the time of day and things like that in very specific increments, it's very hard to do up top. Whereas in previous iterations of the simulator, without exiting the simulator, there was a proper Windows menu bar across the top, and you could go into the file menu, or maybe not the file menu, but you could certainly go into, a weather menu and change the weather on the fly. And a little bit, I felt like some of this stuff was a little bit more accessible. You could change like a control scheme through the menus instead of having to go into the pause menu to change the control scheme halfway through the flight because you realize you got the wrong control scheme. And everything you have to exit to this giant pause menu that only has 4 giant buttons on it because, of course, we've Xboxed the whole simulator. And I mean, I get it. I get that there's a big market on the consoles, but especially for Flight Simulator has always been traditionally, especially because it's a simulator and it's a fairly hardcore simulator as far as simulators go. More real and less gamey than say an American Truck Simulator or something like that, which is still a good game, but it's more game than simulator. I think Microsoft Flight Simulator was always more simulator than game. Yeah, I don't think we should forget that. And I'm curious, and maybe anybody knows who's watching, how does the Sobo get paid for the Game Pass users? Do they get paid on a per session fee? Do they get paid by the number of users who actually sign up to use it, or do they just simply get paid a lump sum? Here's $5 million to let us distribute this on Game Pass for X number of months or whatever. Because I get that the revenue stream can probably be pretty large and pretty impressive, but at the same time, I don't know if we should be giving away the heart and soul of the simulation and dumbing down the simulation just to try to appeal to the mass market, because what makes the simulator really good is the fact that it is, and it's not that it's totally a realistic simulator, but I feel like that's the focus more. Or at least traditionally that was the focus, was on producing a really good simulator where you could really get that sensation of flying. And now we've kind of Xboxed it down to the point where a lot of aspects of the experience of trying to get the simulator launched and trying to get through these menus with these giant option buttons, I feel like, I don't know, we've made the interface so user friendly that we've made it less friendly. I think this is a problem we have in general with this, with software these days, is that too much time is spent making the simulator, not the simulator, that too much time is spent making the interfaces too simplistic. Oh, it looks a lot better that way. It looks clean. Yeah, but a lot of people want to have deep access to options, and the fact that you have to go into the pause menu to change some of the most basic options, and one of the ones that bugs me time and time again too, is switching back to online mode. If the server drops you for 5 or 10 minutes, it switches permanently to offline mode, and even when you get reconnected, it goes back into a crippled off online mode where the photographic scenery is not automatically downloaded. You have to go back out of the pause menu to turn that back on again, when you didn't have to go in there to have it automatically turned off on you. That is one big pet peeve of mine with the way the simulator runs. Just, yeah, the simulator should continue to run even when you're in a menu trying to change options. The simulator should continue to run. If you need, especially because some of these options were changed involuntarily. I think that's the crux of my problem with it, is that a lot of these settings were not changed voluntarily. You dropped my server connection, or maybe my internet went down. Maybe it wasn't your fault, but you know, if I had photographic scenery turned on before the internet went down, it should still be on when it comes back up. Yes, it didn't download in that period of time, but keep the option open there. Keep the option the same. Instead of, oh, well, you know, you were disconnected from the internet for 10 minutes, so we're going to assume you never want to see satellite data again for the rest of your flight. Probably not a good assumption. There's a lot of design choices that I think these days are being made to appease such a mass market, and I get that. I get the mass market, but at the same time, like, don't forget your core users, and don't make it impossible for the core users to do the power stuff. This is the problem with so many apps, and the general appification and mobilification of everything we do, is that everything has to fit on a screen that is now this size, and it's not big enough. Yeah, it's what am I trying to say here? So the interface have to be like incredibly simplistic, and like I hate like my bank's website. They changed the format of their website and they made everything into giant buttons. So all of your accounts are giant buttons that occupy a quarter of the screen. You have to scroll way down to see, you know, different accounts that are down near the bottom, instead of having a list format. When you're on the web, a list is good. A list is good. You don't need these big tappable buttons. But of course, we had to make everything has to be mobile friendly. You can't have a non-mobile friendly website anymore, so everything's got to have big buttons. Why does every single time I do this, it turns into a tech rant? Stop ranting about tech. Let's talk about something besides tech, because that's what happens every single time. I am becoming a bitter old man when it comes to tech. And I'm not a bitter old man when it comes to tech. I think tech has some really great things, but most of the time, we're being sold a pile of garbage in the name of progress, in the name of this is better. Believe us when we tell you it's better. It's not necessary. I'm not going to take you blindly at your word that it's better. Prove to me that it's better. Anyways, okay, stop ranting. Stop, because I've just fallen down that rabbit hole again. I just got to stop. I've just got to stop, because it's a never-ending rant. Let's see here. We just passed Garrick, so let's just see what. Let's see what Garrick was a 1637, and in the tanks we had 6.3. So let's just check that out there. Where's my flight log? There it is. So Garrick, we had 6.3, so we're actually looking good on the gas. We're actually a little bit above the plan on the gas. 1637, we were right on time, so we're looking pretty good. Our arrival's showing 1758, so just over an hour from now into LaGuardia. Let's just see here. Estimated LaGuardia with 4.5 at 1750. So let's do this. I'm just curious, as much as anything, because we have a lot of extra gas right now. That took 0.1 off, and that gained us 3 minutes. It costed us 100. Made a bit of a difference, but not a huge difference at this point. How's the wind doing? The wind's a little bit behind us. It's helping us out a little bit here, but 1.8, 54 minutes. Yeah, So we're doing pretty good. I'm going to bump the cost index up. The other thing is that the weather is improving in LaGuardia, so we're less and less likely to actually need to use that weather fuel that I have set aside for weather, that was flight planned in there for weather. I set in 25, 30 minutes of extra fuel for weather, 25 minutes extra fuel for weather. And the weather's improving in LaGuardia. Let's pull up the ATIS here. Where's my ATIS? It was on one of these. No? Where is it here? I've lost my ATIS. Did I close it? No, there it is. That's it. There it is. All right, cause let's just check the ATIS in LaGuardia here. Few at 900, scatter 1600. This is still, I think, the same weather. 25,000 feet. Everything's wet. ILS 22. Interesting. New arrival procedures in effect. Flight crews should not provide gate or lane information to air traffic control. Expect lane assignment from air traffic control. Ha! Fantastic. This is one of those things that I've been talking about for a while. And it really bugs me about the U.S. system versus, well, and not the U.S. system per se, but yeah, but major airports in the U.S. versus major airports in Canada. In Canada, the airport and the ATC system tend to work together. And so the air traffic controllers in the tower and the ground controllers will usually have readouts of gate assignments for various flights, so they know how to get in the aircraft where they need to go efficiently without having to even stop and ask them, hey, where are you going? What gate you going to? What apron entry do you need? Whereas in the U.S., this is apparently just like never crossed anybody's mind in the FAA's world that, hey, maybe the air traffic controllers should collaborate with the airport authorities, with the apron controllers, with the airlines, and have the information in front of them instead of always having to query the pilots as to what gate you're going to. And then half the time the pilots are like, we're not really sure yet. We haven't, it's been a short flight. We haven't had a chance to look at it yet. Or, oh, we think it's changed. So yeah, that's always been a bit of a pet peeve of mine. Like, why can we not put this information in the tower at the ground controller's fingertips? The ground controller should know where people are going as well as they do. And it you know, with all the information at your fingertips in this world that we live in today, to not be passing that information along was, to me, very just, not even counterintuitive, but just, it seemed foolish. You know, always having the ground controller have to ask this guy instead of having the information at my fingertips and I can already have a plan. Instead of waiting for the guy to tell me so I can make a plan, why not have the information in front of me so I could be making a plan before he even lands, let alone taxis off the runway and calls me to ask which ramp to taxi to. I already know where he's going to go. I know what traffic's over there. I can see how he's going to get there. Yeah, like, it's just, it's one of those things where there's such a line drawn between air traffic controllers and the airport operation itself. This is my job. My job is just simply to maintain order on the runways and the taxiways, and that's it. And what happens on the ramp is your job, and I don't care what happens on the ramp. The ramp is totally your thing, even though we have to work together because there's only one ramp entry exit, so we have to know who's coming in, who's going out. You know, like the FAA's way of, okay, just check with your ramp control, let me know if you're cleared in. So then airline's gotta, okay, give me a second. Captain's got to take the ATC radios. The first officer's going to dial on the other frequency. He's going to call them up. He's going to say, hey, you know, United Ramp, are we cleared in at whatever entry? And they're like, no, you have to wait for an outbound. Then you're clear. Wait for an outbound. I'll call you back. So then the FO's got to hang up. He's got to turn to the captain, tell the captain. The captain's got to tell ATC. Like, what an inefficient waste of time. You know, and not only just inefficient waste of time too, but then also just vastly increasing your risk factor by taking one guy out of the loop and having him go call the ramp tower instead of monitoring the progress of the airplane around the airport, potentially, you know, when there's potentially runway incursions happening. When else are you going to call? Like, you take an example like Newark, where you've got this two very close parallel runways. You land, you clear the first runway, and then you've got to stop and hold short of the second runway before you can cross it. Well, when's the best time to call the ramp? Well, maybe when I'm stopped here, waiting to cross the runway. But then you take that guy out of the loop for the runway crossing. So then most airlines usually have a policy, well, don't call till you get to the other side. And then, like, you get to the other side and your ground control's like, okay, what ramp entry are you going to? Are they ready for you? And like, I don't know yet. I couldn't call yet because I was waiting to reduce my risk factor trying to cross that runway. It's like, no matter what you do, you lose. No matter what you do, somebody's going to get mad at you because either you're going to have a runway incursion because one guy's not paying attention to what's going on, the other guy is only paying attention to what's going on, but maybe he's got one ear on the ramp radio as well, or you're going to cross the runway and then you're not going to be ready with the ramp information, and then the guy's going to yell at you because you didn't know what you're doing yet. Why, yeah, so why this disconnect? Why can't we work together? Generally at the major airports in Canada, and it only goes for the major airports, not so much for the minor airports, but the major airports, the ATC knows the gate you're going to as well. They have a screen next to your flight strip. It's also got your gate number, and it might even be whether or not the gate's occupied, so that they know that, hey, we got to park you because your gate's already occupied. There's no room for you on the apron right now. Fantastic. That's the way it should be. Sharing of information, collaborating, working together to make the system work better instead of not collaborating, instead of just being two separate, completely siloed entities, the people who run the ramp and the people who run the taxiway, and never communicating, even though they have an important interface where they both have to meet and work together to make sure things happen properly. Yeah, and I think I've ranted about this before, but there's a lot of things in the US that are done really well in aviation, but one of the things that's done very poorly is airport control. And this is one of the reasons. It's not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons. One of the other big reasons is just usually overloading controllers and not creating smart divisions of duties, and not staffing facilities fully as well. But O'Hare is one of those. It's one of the ones where I think of where it's just. It's not that it's a poorly designed airport. It's that the way the FAA runs it and runs the ground side of the operations is stupid. It's not well thought out. It does very little to minimize risk. And yeah, it's a miracle sometimes that accidents do not happen on a regular basis at these places, given how much one controller gets overloaded. So like if you go to Chicago O'Hare, there's 3 ground controllers usually working on a shift. Let's see if I can find it here. Let's just go to KORD. So there's usually 3 ground controllers working on a shift. Nope. Bring up the taxi chart. No, I did not bring up the taxi chart. There it is. There it is. So here's the Chicago O'Hare Airport. There's usually 3 ground controllers working. There's one guy working the north side between these runways up here. There's one guy working the south side, and there's one guy working the middle side. 90% of the airplanes on the ground in Chicago are probably on this middle side here, going back and forth to the, what is it, like 100 gates that are on the central terminals. This is kind of the cargo area down here on the south side, so there is some operations happening down there. But like, the vast majority of operations are happening on this side, and they give it to one controller. And this guy is so overworked. This person, whoever it is, this man, this woman, whoever it is, they're so overworked by the sheer volume of airplanes. This person up here is doing almost nothing. Most of the people, they land on this north runway. Okay, taxi down here. Okay, stop. Call the monitor the tower for the crossing. Or this way. Stop. Monitor the tower for the crossing. That's it. This frequency is practically silent. Nothing happens on this frequency. And then you get to this side, and it's utter and complete chaos. It's too much work for one person to do. But they just shrug their shoulders and say, that's the way we've always done it. We'll just keep doing it that way. There is a better way to do it. 100% there is. There has to be a better way to do it. Nobody's figured it out yet where the splits could be, but there needs to be some kind of a division of this side of the airport, some kind of a split. Yeah, and it's just, but it's nonsensical the way it's run right now. It's inefficient. Not only is it inefficient, but it's just downright dangerous because one person is so overloaded that they have no time to monitor for threats. It's all they can do to try and keep up with the workload, let alone monitor for potential threats. And unfortunately, it seems to be a common theme in the U.S. when it comes to ATC is that there's no saying no. There's no saying we're overworked. There's no saying we're overloaded. There's no saying we need to hire more people. Just carry on doing the work. Just push the tin. Just get it through. And again, nobody has a chance to be proactive about safety and look ahead and try and figure out threats before they happen because they're just trying to keep up with the workload. I don't blame the controllers. I think the controllers do the best they can with the situation that they're given. I put the fault really at the feet of the FAA. for setting the controllers up to fail and not giving them the resources that they need to effectively manage their situations. They really just, yeah, they throw them into the deep end, and a lot of controllers, full respect to a lot of controllers in the US, they do the best they can with what they're given, with the resources that they're given. Again, like I said, I fault the FAA. They do not give sufficient resources to actually effectively manage these operations. There should be 2 central ground controllers in Chicago here. I don't know where you would put the split, and that's up to someone with a lot more information than me, but you split this somehow, whether you split it kind of east-west here, or maybe you do a north-south split across here somehow, but you split this central part in half because it's too much workload for one person. It really is. And if it reduces the efficiency of the operation a little bit because you've got to do these frequency handoffs, I think that is I think it's a very reasonable reasonable compromise in the name of safety. Unfortunately, I think most of the airlines would disagree when they say, nope, we got to move airplanes faster. But one thing that I've kind of come to realize as I've gone further and higher in the echelons and into bigger and bigger operations with bigger and bigger aircraft, efficiency can't trump safety. It just can't. It shouldn't. It can't. It cannot, and yet the FAA seems to want that to happen. And I think it's not that the FAA necessarily wants that to happen, it's that they give in to the airlines because the FAA has the twin mandate of both ensuring safety in the aviation system in the United States, but also promoting the aviation system in the United States. And these twin mandates do come into conflict a lot. Yes, a safe system is an efficient system to a degree, but sometimes you look at trying to promote the system and trying to not cost the airlines too much money and make it an unprofitable system, kind of pushes safety a little bit out the door. And it frustrates me because I think they could have a fantastic system if they put a little bit more emphasis on safety sometimes. And there are lots of people in the system who do, but then oftentimes you get to the decision-making levels and you get a lot of blowback from the airlines. You get a lot of blowback from the airports. We can't, push enough airplanes out if you apply this rule. Well, you got to figure out a way to make it safer. Then find me an alternative to this rule that achieves the same level of safety instead of just shrugging your shoulders and saying, okay, well, you tried. I guess we give up. We'll just continue to conduct an unsafe operation. That is my feeling of the way the FAA operates at a lot of airports. Unfortunately, is that they do the best. The controllers do the best they can. The people on the ground do the best they can. But the second it comes to costing more money, everyone says, "Whoa, no, we can't do that. We can't spend more money on this operation. So we'll just continue to operate unsafely." Again, Boeing case in point. Not enough FAA inspectors. Too many Boeing inspectors, and the Boeing inspectors all have in the back of their mind the company's got to ship airplanes. So some of these airplanes have got to make it out the door. So we'll take the safest ones, but they may not necessarily be safe. We'll take the safest ones, and we'll put them out the door, and we'll try to fix the rest of them. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah, how are we doing here? We got about a little less than an hour to touch down in LaGuardia. Just going to go look over at my V-pilot again, and no, nobody yet. No ATC yet. So I think we're going to start thinking about setting up for this arrival because we got lots of stuff to read, lots of stuff to do. So I wonder if this, if it's in the charts at all here. Let's just have a quick look at some of these charts here. Construction in LaGuardia. Just a few little ramp things being edited and things like that. Let's see here. I'm just looking here, and I don't see any information about this. So probably what happened was a lot of this information was issued directly to the airlines to pass along to their crews, because it would be airlines that would be affected by it. So the only other place I can think of where I could find out about these procedures potentially is in the NOTAMs. Let's see if there's anything under LaGuardia NOTAMs explaining the ramp procedures now, but Nothing really in there. Let's just have a quick look through for anything affects at our arrival in particular. I don't see anything. A few taxi lanes closed, so I might need to go and look at those against the chart in a minute here. Approach procedures, not much under approaches, nothing under stars, nothing really under SID is going to affect us. Let's just pull up the taxi lane chart here, just so I can kind of get a sense of what I'm looking for, because I'm looking for, I believe we're going to gate 58. I believe we're going to gate 58, so let's just have a look at these. Just see taxi lane 15, so 15's way down here. Taxi lane 3, center line markings removed. Taxi lane 3 between Alpha and Bravo. Taxiway Alpha and Terminal Bravo ramp closed. Okay. That's this right up here. Taxiway Alpha between Echo and Golf Golf. Alpha between Echo and Golf Golf. Okay, so this section of Alpha is closed. Oh, closed to aircraft more than 118 feet. Never mind. Read it carefully. Read it carefully. Read the whole thing, otherwise it doesn't really count. Alright, 11, 14, 15 doesn't really affect us because we're going to gate 58 here on Concourse B. So that's okay. Alright, we're good. We're good. We're good. Okay, I like it. Okay, so I think we got all that. That looks good. So I think we can almost kind of set up for an arrival here and just review what we're doing, because it's a complicated airspace. You do want to definitely get set up early. There's lots of restrictions on the arrival. I can already see the top of descent point scrolling into view there, about 150 miles ahead. So let's start setting this up here and dealing with this. So let's just go through the, what are we? We're on the, we're on the Proud 2, that's what we're on. So let's see if I can set this up in such a way, plan, put constraints back on here. And you know what, we don't have, we probably, oh no, we do have restraints. This one has have constraints that are definitely on here. So let's go in here like this. Let's do it in such a way that we can kind of see the MCDU and the chart and the NT at the same time. Alright, so we've got Hertz, we've got Grok, Hydra, Prince, Ridgy, flight level 270, there it is, that's good. Then we go to Smyrna at or above 240, Skippy between 22 and 19, Bessie above 17, Edger between 17 and 13, Davies above 13, Holy Brand above 11, Corey at 10,000 appears to be the lowest thing I've got on here. And then I've got Deputy, Tykes, Minx, Jersey, Renew, Apple, and Proud. And from Proud we do a vector. And does it give us anything specific? No, nothing specific to the runway. So after Proud it's going to be a vector around. So I'm going to say it's probably going to be a right-hand, or sorry, a left-hand downwind and onto the ILS runway 22. We're going to be exactly opposite the ILS 22, but there it is. We got Proud, Jersey, and Holy. We got some holds there, so just in case we need them. No ATC online, so not expecting any holding. All right, let's go through and let's check the ILS to runway 22. ILS to runway 22. So we should have Yeoman, Greco, and down and then straight ahead to Proud for the mist. So I do see that on there. There's Yeoman, Greco. Yeoman's above 3,000. Greco should be at 1,900. And then for the mist, it's straight ahead to Proud to hold at 3,000 feet. Yep, there it is. It's all good. All right, so that's all in there. RadNav 110.5. Let's just do it this way now. There we go. 110.5, 225. That's within reason. Prog page. Let's just put LGA here. The LaGuardia VOR. It's on the field. 285 miles away. We're getting there pretty quick with the tailwind behind us today. One thing about the descent, I don't like to descend at 340 knots. It's just, especially if ATC gives you a slowdown, but even if they don't give you a slowdown, it's a little bit on the fast side. 7.6 is okay, but I'm just going to bring this back to 320. And then, again, where'd I put my ATIS here? So 3011, 12 degrees, 250 at 9. 3011. Shouldn't work, but it does. 12 degrees, 250 at 9. And the ILSDA for this straight in, it's a 200-foot minimum at 212. Right over the water, so not a problem. Missed approach, we're going to put 3,000 for the acceleration and the engine out acceleration. Engine out acceleration, 227 the green dot. Fuel prediction still showing 4.4 over, which is 1.8 extra, almost an hour of extra fuel before we have to go off to Philly. Secondary, let's recopy this. And I don't expect any runway changes, so we're going to leave that in there. We could always check the TAF for LaGuardia and see if that does. I feel like the performance of Navigraph charts has improved there. Tell me what you guys think, but I think it's going faster than it used to. Anyways, yeah. Let's see how we're doing here. How's that top of descent point doing? It's still about 100 miles away. We don't have to do the briefing quite yet. The other thing I could do, though, just while we're here, is just give me a some arrival planning. So we've got wet runway. Let's apply the METAR. Landing weight. This is one thing that I do need to look at here. And the easiest way I find is fuel prediction. 60.5, 64.9. Which is actually a little bit overweight. Like 500 kilos. I think in the flight plan it has a higher weight. What's the max weight on this? Max is 64.5. And we were planned right at 64.5. Okay. So first things first. Let's burn some gas. So it looks like we're going to be about 400 kilos over max landing weight based on the current prediction. So I'm going to put 64.5. I'm going to say we probably need to have medium auto brake in LaGuardia because it's a relatively short runway at 7,000 feet. With no idle, even on a wet runway, manual landing, flaps full, auto thrust on. The factored landing distance, 59.22, still gives us a little more than 1,000-foot margin. So we are definitely going to be doing medium auto brake for this. Fire up the APU and try to burn that extra 400 kilos. So we need to be at 4 tons. 4 tons of fuel when we land. I didn't look at that when I planned the fuel, and that's my mistake. Usually dispatchers are on that, but yeah. Try not to plan to land a max landing weight. Right here. This was a mistake right here. We were planning to land... Stop doing that. We were planning to land at 64.5, which is, and max landing weight 64.5. There's no margin. There's no margin. If you get a shortcut and you burn a little bit less gas than you planned, you get a more efficient altitude, the wind's a little better, anything happens to make your flight go better, you're overweight for landing. Now you got to find a way to burn some fuel. So always have like a little bit of leeway on this number. I should have looked at that. I missed that completely. Yeah. What can I say? I made an error. I did not see it. Also, though, this is not right. 174 people. No, there's no way JetBlue puts 174 people in a 320. We're not in a 321 today. We're just in a 320. There's no way JetBlue puts 174 people in there. I've got to adjust that. That's where I kind of got... That's where I kind of got caught off guard there. Is, yeah. Yeah, that's not right. And therein lies the reason. And then, you know, you've got this max landing weight number. if you want to have enough fuel to divert to an alternate, and you're already at your maximum 0 fuel weight now, you don't have enough margin on that. So I really shouldn't have put 174 people in there. Is that what got loaded? And the funny thing is, like, because I don't normally fly the IAE engines, this is the other part that is not hurting me. Yeah, 174 people, full bus, 174 people, and hurting is not the right point, but in SimBrief I have profiles set up for my airplanes the way I like them. I don't normally find I don't normally, what am I trying to say here? I don't normally fly the IAE engines, so I don't have a profile set up in SimBrief with a lower limit, because I find the 174 is ridiculous. It's not ridiculous, but it is ridiculous. Like, that's a high density configuration with no business class, and you're telling me JetBlue has no business class? No, JetBlue has a business class. So yeah, it's not... Anywho, what was I trying to say here? Yeah. 174 people is a lot of people to put at 320, and most operators, unless you're in a very high density configuration, if you have any business class at all, you will not have 174. So that's where I'm kind of getting a little bit hooped there. The other thing you can do, of course, is unfortunately for the discomfort of the passengers, you can also throw out some speed brakes. Makes the whole airplane run a little bit rough, but it increases the amount of thrust you need to overcome drag. Now, at cruise, you have to be very careful with this, because as you can see, we were operating pretty close to max thrust already. As soon as I put some drag on the airplane, it is decelerating now. So make sure you're not going to decelerate, obviously, to the point where you stall the airplane, but just trying to find a balance. And once we start down as well, once we start a descent, we can actually, because the engines will then go to idle, in theory, we can actually put a lot more speed brake out, and the engine will have to come up to oppose that and keep the power up. Anyways, what else can I talk about? Kind of talked about 2024. Didn't talk too much about add-on compatibility. It seems like the add-ons are slowly getting there, and it was it's a big change. There's a big change in the way add-ons, especially aircraft, are implemented in the sim. So there's no easy way to to suddenly change all that. One thing that I thought was a little bit dirty, and I've read this, I don't know 100% that it was accurate, but it sounds about right, is the fact that Asobo was cross-posting things. Yes, we know the speed brake's still out, it is intentional. The fact that Asobo was cross-posting things from 2020 marketplace to 2024 marketplace without talking to the developers. So they were just taking upon themselves to just import everything en masse without talking to people. So PMDG, I think, was one of the developers that actually they've discovered themselves, to their surprise, that their products were for sale in the 2024 marketplace, even though they'd come out and said, our products don't really work. They're kind of compatible, but they're not really great. There's some things that are broken. There's some things that don't work properly. Use it at your own risk. But they did not want to, then, and that was kind of directed, I think, more at their existing user base. I don't think they had any intention of selling on the 2024 platform at this time, and yet they find out, somebody messages them and said, hey, your planes are for sale on 2024, right? And they're like, what? Like, we didn't say this is a good idea. We don't think it is a good idea yet because they're not ready. And Asobo apparently had just been taking all sorts of stuff out of the 2020 store and just dumping it into 2024 and saying, yeah, it's compatible 100%. Go buy it, download it, give us some money in the marketplace. And they had to backtrack and remove a whole bunch of stuff and say, oh yeah, well actually this wasn't supposed to be there. It's like, yeah, it wasn't supposed to be there. You shouldn't have put it in there in the first place. Why were you putting this stuff in there? You know, yeah, your users deserve better. So I think Asobo got caught with their pants down multiple times in this new sim. Yeah, BMDG have said like some of their products are pretty much compatible as is. The DC6, I think they said was pretty much compatible as is. The 777 needed a few little patches, but it's pretty reasonable. The 37 apparently is going to need a fair bit of work, and there will actually be an upgrade fee to go from 20 to 2024 in the 37. Do I blame PMDG for that? No, I think that you know, if they have to put a lot of effort into changing something and updating it to match the new SDK, I think that there is something to be said for you know, getting a return on that investment. They're going to invest a fair bit of time in this, but so they did say it was going to be a upgrade charge. In quotes, so basically what they said was it's not going to be the price of a new product. It's not going to be another $60 or $70 again for it. So I'm thinking you're going to see a $20 or $30 upgrade fee to go from 2020 to 24 and the 37. But yeah, I think that I think it was dirty, first of all, for Asobo to play that game and be like, yeah, all this stuff's good. It's all compatible 100%, and not even close. Even some of the airports were not compatible, and they're just posting stuff on there. It's like, no, actually, let the developer look at it. Don't, you know, you got thousands of things in the marketplace. Do you really have the time to really go through them properly and say, yes, this is fine the way it is? I think it's better to let the original developer go at it and look at it and say, yes, it's fine. The product is good the way it is. I don't need to make any changes to it, or maybe they do. But let the original developer do that. Don't do that for them and say, yeah, it's compatible because we think it should be. Not good. It's not because you think it should be is it compatible. It's compatible because it's compatible. It looks and feels the way it's supposed to. You know, even the airports, no guarantee that all the scenery is going to compile exactly the same way and look exactly the same. But Asobo seemed to just want to push their agenda that, yeah, everything's backwards compatible. Yeah, everything in 2020 will work in 2024, no problem. Hands down. 99% of it will work, no problem, without even looking at it. Let's look at it. Let's make sure. Because you don't want the developer to get a black eye because something looks really bad in 2024 that they didn't even know because they haven't even seen it yet. Anyways, I see that top drop point coming up, so let's do this. Are you ready for the approach briefing? Are you ready for the approach briefing? You have control.
I have control.
Are you ready for the approach briefing? Are you ready for the arrival briefing? Are you ready for the approach briefing? Any questions?
No questions.
Are you ready for the approach briefing?
Go ahead.
So I never finished the departure briefing because I never asked her any questions at that point. Weather, marginal, runway, wet, AP after landing, yes. ILS, threats, weather, auto land, no. Final sector, we'll say yes. FOEFIS, yes. Minimum descent altitude, we figured that out, it was 213. Airport elevation, we'll call it 13 then. And that's good. Okay, alright, so today we are, first of all, technical status of the airplane. Speedbrake's still out, that's fine. We have no other failures other than the FCU2 fault, which doesn't really cause too much actual faults. The airplane still flies as long as the other FCU works. Let's see here. The Proud 2 RNAV arrival. Plate is 11 Proud 2. This is on plate 10-2 Echo for New York's LaGuardia Airport. Radar required jets only. Routing constraints are all as published. The bottom altitude on this is 10,000. I'm going to set 10,000 now because I don't have any ATC and it's going to be coming up very soon here. And I'm actually surprised I didn't get any messages here in vPilot yet. Usually you get an auto ATC message at some point, but we haven't got one yet. Okay, it's fine. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and start that descent. So there's descent, Alt Magenta Mach. After Proud, we're going to self-vector ourselves onto a left downwind for an ILS to runway 22 in LaGuardia, plate 10-9, 21 feet the elevation, close enough. Oh, that's not the approach. See, I'm looking and I'm kind of doing different things at once. My brain's not really in it here. Let's actually do it. Let's actually read it properly. It is 11-5 for the ILS runway 22 in LaGuardia. IURD 110.5. Pull up the loc button. That's the right frequency. We're too close to another localizer, so we're getting that one instead. 224, the final approach course. Greco 1900, the ILSDA of 212. I do see 212 set there. No temp comps required, and missed approach is as published or as otherwise advised by ATC. Top altitude is 3,000 for that. MSA is 2,900 feet to the west of the LaGuardia VOR over downtown New York. Radar required for procedure entry. I can do my self vectors here. We've got a pretty phenomenal RNAV system available here. So standard 3-degree glide slope down this. Pappy's on the right. ALSF 1 lighting system for this. RVR 1800 or 1/2 mile. Yeah, landing on runway 22. We're going to vacate left. We're going to expect probably Charlie. If we miss Charlie, we could take Yankee or Bravo back to the apron. We're going to gate 58, which is right here. So we'll probably take lane 1 in, which transitions to lane 9 to gate 58, just to see the tour behind the bridges. 50 foot's the max height under the bridges. We got a 39-foot tail height, so we are acceptable to go under there. There's Mach. Yeah. Approach configuration, so it's a localized slope couple approach, clear for the managed approach to a manual landing, cleared for the approach while arm approach mode, and second autopilot. Anti-ice will probably be on, maybe not, given the temperature. We'll have to see. It probably will be off, actually, for the approach itself. We've got auto brake medium for the 7,000-foot runway in LaGuardia. It'll be max reverse and config full for landing. And, yeah, autopilot will come off when the runway site landing's assured. No traffic ahead. We'll make calls on the Setyp frequency. Now that I think about it, that's the Speedbrake out still. So the Setyp frequency here is 118.7 for LaGuardia. So I'm going to pop that up in the standby right now, so it's ready to go. We'll get that once we get to within about 30 miles of the airport. And I might even put 22.8 up here on this one just so I can make calls on Unicom. Because there's so many airports closely spaced around New York, I kind of want to call on Unicom and Setyp at the same time. Unless we can get an approach controller on, and that'd be great. But I feel like that's not going to happen. Alright, so I got 22.8 there for Unicom. 18.7's on COM 1, 22.8's on COM 2. Alright, yeah, no transfer of controls required. I'm just going to check this out here. So RadNav, auto-tune is acceptable. Fuel prediction. So we're now showing 4.3, so we've burned 100 kilos out of our landing fuel. We've got to burn another 300 kilos out still. And the secondaries just got the copy of the first. That's all I've got. Any questions?
No questions.
I have control.
You have control.
Alright, we got that all done. Speed brake's still out. I could probably get a little more aggressive on the speed brake in the descent now that we're on our way down here. Because now we can push more thrust against well, we had the engines almost at idle. So we can definitely push the speed brakes out and have more thrust against them. Alright, and that's all I've got. So now we're just got to do this landing. It doesn't look too bad in LaGuardia anyways right now. Let's see, there might actually be a new update since I last checked this here, so let's just come over here and hit refresh. Wants me to reselect. Where'd LaGuardia go? Ha! Weird, LaGuardia disappeared. KLGA. Ha! Their ATIS must have gotten lost. They must have lost the digital ATIS feed, so it just deleted it out of the system. That's funny, though. I've never seen that before, but interesting. Their ATIS must have, their ATIS must have not gone offline, but must have gotten lost out of the feed. So it just simply dropped it out of the list, because there's no current ATIS in there. Okay, well, anyways, just for curiosity's sake, JFK is nearby. 1,500 feet scattered 7,000. 1,500 fused, scattered 7,000, 25,000 broken. That's all reasonable. 216.11. Okay, that's fine. That's all reasonable. Yeah. Yeah, so still departing ILS runway 22. Oh, 22 left, 2 right. Yeah, so yeah, we'll stick to that for now anyways as a plan. Let's just check here. So we got a cross Eno above 24,000, so we are looking good for that restriction. We went through this layer here, and I didn't even put the anti-ice on. So I'm going to put it on for a minute now because I didn't even kind of focused on some other stuff here. I don't know why the ATIS got lost. I'm going to hit refresh on this one more time. And LaGuardia's gone from the list. Weird, man. Weird. The other thing I could do is I could check on here, because I think it'll list it here. Although it'll probably have nothing again. Weather. ATIS. Yeah, there we go. Delta 29 minutes ago. Yeah, that's current, yep. 10 miles, few at 900, scatter 1600, broken 7500, 13 degrees, 3010. Pressure dropped pretty rapidly there. It was 3016, now 3010. I listed too low.
992 set passing 24,500.
I wasn't actually changing anything, so give up. Interesting. Okay. 555. Yeah, we got the conditions codes for all wet runway. Looking good. Looking good.
Now.
Good thing we're almost there because my coffee's almost done. All right. What else we got here? There's my New York Jets airplane. I just picked it because it was kind of colorful. I thought it was also fitting for the fact we're going to New York, obviously. But yeah, I will say this: like JetBlue has some really fun paint jobs. They really do. More so in the 320 fleet than in the 321 fleet, or at least that's what I've seen so far. J'Aviation has done some more 321 liveries now that they have the sharklets, but not what am I trying to say? Not like just trying to see if I can get some nice shots here potentially for the cover for the title card, I should say. But yeah, hasn't done like a whole ton of like crazy ones. So let's just see here if I can pull this up here. But I mean, I'm so happy that he did get some JetBlue ones out there with the sharklets, and they were fairly standard JetBlue ones. So let's just go in here and just see if I go 321. What would be great is if you could sort this by airline too. I guess you could do this. This will take me to only U.S. airlines. Let's do IAE. Let's do IAE, and then we can see what we've got here in terms of JetBlue stuff here. So there, yeah. So like, I've done these ones. I've done the blue ones. I've done the kind of standard ones before, and I think that's all that he's done in the 321 liveries. It's just ribbons, prism. I think I've seen all these ones before, so I feel that's kind of why I wanted to go with the 320 as well. Not that I wanted to go with the 320 per se. Did JetBlue even have any 319s? I don't think they do they? No, there's not too many airlines that fly 319 around. 320 is a pretty reasonable size though, so like, but JetBlue just has such a wide variety of colors. I was thinking about this one too, and I might do this one for the next one. I was also thinking about this one because I love New York, just because we're going to New York. But again, to me, it just came down to the New York Jets ones, just because I wanted a holiday theme. So I think I've done the red one before. Pretty sure I've done the red one before, so that's why I went with green. And then it was just toss up between the lucky blue, which is the Celtics, Boston, or the New York Jets. So I went with the New York Jets ones just because we're going to New York. So that was my logic. There was some logic to it. But I do want to, like, they have some really fantastic ones. I hope he does a few more, but I feel like he's not going to. Like, I feel like he's covered all the bases. He's done all the major ones, and then it's just like there's just a bunch of generic ones as well. Boston Red Sox as well. Yeah, I'm hoping maybe he does a few more 321 ones, but I feel like he's not going to. I feel like he's kind of maxed out what's available there. How are we doing now on the fuel prediction? 4.0. Hey, look at that. We can go ahead and stow the speed brakes now. All that time in the descent with the engines revved up definitely got the fuel back a little bit. So 4.2 now in the tanks. Yeah, I think it's very reasonable to expect we're going to land actually with less than 4. I think it might be overestimating what we're going to land with, but that's okay. We will make do. All right. Anything you guys want to talk about before we get there? Please let me know. I know you guys aren't. I guess it's probably the week before Christmas. You guys are probably all busy with Christmas preparations. I know I have been this month, and that's why I've been online less than I wanted to be, less than I normally like to be. But I've been, yeah, it's just hectic. Just always kind of thinking about stuff for Christmas. Not so much going to Christmas parties and things like that, because I really kind of like just things happening in the household. Always, you got to get the kids out to go get some Christmas gifts for people. You've got to go on your own. And there's wrapping and putting up trees and making cookies, and it's just a never-ending array of things to do. 3010, which is 1019. Always a never-ending array of things to do, and that's fine. I don't mind. Like, I like to. I like the Christmas season. I mean, I do enjoy the Christmas season to a certain degree now. There was a point in kind of my 20s and 30s, I think before I had kids especially, that I was getting grinchy about it, mostly because it was just so commercialized. And I resented literally I just turned the NTIs off, and I can see we're just about to hit this layer. It's kind of coming up faster than I thought it was. And I think that's what really kind of got me a little bit grinchy about Christmas in my 20s, was it was so commercialized, and it is. It 100% is, but when you have kids, it changes, though, because Christmas could become a magical time. Magic happens. Magic comes true at Christmas time. Whether it be the elf on the shelf kind of hanging out and doing things with you. All right, we're supposed to be below 17 and above 13, so we've met that restriction here for Edger. We're just coming back to 250 knots now. Yeah, there's that aspect of it. Obviously gift giving and seeing the wonder on their faces. And I've had a little bit more fun now. I think they have a bit more fun almost picking out gifts now than just getting things. They do like to get things, but I don't think that's what they really look forward to at Christmas anymore. I think they look forward more to the joy of time together. I know that maybe I'm projecting too much of myself onto them, but I think that both of my kids have reached an age where they've realized that it's not about things, it's about the family time together. It's about good food, getting a chance to have some really good meals. They get to spend some time with their cousin who they really enjoy spending time with. So I think all these things kind of come together, for the Christmas experience, for the complete Christmas experience. Is it nice to get a few gifts from people? Absolutely it is, but I don't think that's what they're looking at as the be-all and end-all of Christmas anymore, which is kind of a good thing. All right, there's the engine anti-ice. The next restriction is Corey at 10,000. How are we doing on the prog page here? It says we need more drag, and I tend to think we do. Yeah, we're getting pretty high there. We're just trending higher and higher here, so we definitely need to increase our rate of descent. Why it slowed so early, I'm not really sure. I don't think it should have slowed so early. The plan definitely did not seem like it should have slowed this early, but oh well. That's why the pilot is here, is to figure out what went wrong with the plan and fix it. Alright, we're already, the anti-ice on is not helping our cause either, because that increases the minimum engine, the idle engine thrust. Alright, so we got half speed brakes out. One tip I'll give for all of you pilots out there too, when you're flying, if you do use the speed brakes, keep your hand on the speed brake lever. You can't see my hand, but it is down there right now. It is on the speed brake lever. Never take your hand off the speed brake lever when the speed brakes are out, because you'll forget that they're out. It's very easy to do if you get distracted with 2 or 3 things happening one after the other in the flight deck, and then you forget the speed brakes are out. And yes, there's a reminder on there in the Airbus. There absolutely is, but you shouldn't be waiting for that memo to kind of pique your interest and say, oh yeah, I guess I did leave those speed brakes out. Meanwhile, you're wasting all this gas trying to run full power to keep speed up while the speed brakes are still hanging out. So, if you have to go and do something on the FCU, go and do it quickly, but then immediately put your hand back on that speed brake lever. I didn't want full speed brakes, I just wanted half speed brakes. Immediately put your hand back on that speed brake lever as soon as, if you do take it off to go do something. Always try to keep that hand on there as positive contact as a reminder the speed brakes are out. It also makes it easier for you to modulate the speed brakes as you see if you're catching up to the path like we are now. You can modulate the speed brakes a little bit. I don't think we're going to have time to modulate them because we're only 4 miles from Corey. I tell you, we're monitoring Unicom all this time, and there's not much going on Unicom anymore ever since the CTAF thing was designed.
1,000 to go.
Roger. Now we're definitely in the target window. I can start stowing those speed brakes. Pretty much on path there. And the path should have me reaching core at 10,000 feet, so. Nope. And then we diverged a little bit off the path. Just barely within the 200, plus or minus 200 foot window. Speed alt star. All right, we got those stowed. We're going to continue inbound at 10,000 feet till we get a lot closer to the airport, because we are still, what are we still, like 50 miles back from LaGuardia at this point? 60 miles? Yeah, 50 miles back from LaGuardia. Oh, you know, we're entering the New York terminal airspace from the south, but it's a long way to LaGuardia. We got to go past JFK and everything else to get to LaGuardia. So I'm going to zoom in on LaGuardia here on my V-Pilot just to see who else is coming in, and nobody else is really coming in. LaGuardia's kind of quiet. New York itself is really quiet right now. I guess it's a, what is today, a Tuesday? Most people have to work on a Tuesday, not me. I work every weekend instead. Not every weekend, but most weekends. And we do have TAT plus 12, so we can actually kill the anti-ice here. I guess she put the lights on. Approach checklist. Approach checklist.
Barrel ref.
3010 set.
3010 set. Seat belts.
On.
Minimum.
212 feet set.
Auto brake.
Medium armed.
Engine mode selector.
Normal.
Approach checklist completed.
I hate to make fun of other people's accents, but I don't think engine is an accent. I think engine is just a poor AI. I didn't think it was AI. Was this AI? Maybe it was AI. No, it is human. I should make fun of her then. I'm sorry. I should take that back. But at the same time, like, somebody should listen to this and tell her, like, yeah, I don't know. I've encountered this multiple times with FS2 crew with their AI generated voices where they say weird things like decel, not decel, decel. It's like, what's decel? Decel, deceleration, decel, but not decel. But you get, you know, you get weird little aberrations like this when you're using slang words, abbreviations, that sort of thing, that are very jargony to this particular industry. Aviation is a weird industry with a lot of weird things, like TCAS, TCAS. Most people kind of, human beings would kind of look at that and say, yeah, TCAS, that makes sense. But like, you know, if you try to just get an AI to pronounce it using just the rules of grammar, you'd be like TCAS or something like that. You know, or you just call it TCAS. Like, humans have a weird way, not a weird way, but humans have a way of kind of abbreviating things in a kind of naturalistic way, trying to break things down to like 1 to 2 syllables if you can, to make it easier to say. And yeah, the AIs really have a problem, I find, with that. The AI voice generators really have a problem with trying to read that stuff, and then you have to kind of put a pronounceable thing. You have to put like TEE-CAS to get it to say TCAS. Maybe you should put ENJIN instead of ENGINE for engine, not engine. I mean, and I guess that also comes with English. English is a horrible language for anybody who's not a native speaker, because the number of exceptions to every grammatical rule are ridiculous. You can't fault anyone who gets English wrong, because there's so many convoluted rules, and then for every rule there's 20 exceptions. So you know, my daughter complained about her spelling last year. every week last year at school she had a spelling test, 10, 15 or 20 words or whatever it was, and you'd spell it the way it sounds, and you'd get it about 90% of the way there. But there's always stupid little things like the word chocolate. It's not chocolate, it's chocolate. Everyone says chocolate, but it's spelled chocolate. So we'd have to learn to pronounce things as you spell them, which is kind of the inverse of the problem that people who are non-native English speakers come into. Is like, don't pronounce it the way you read it, because there's exceptions to every rule. It's not chocolate, it's chocolate. We might even say chocolate, but you soften up that last A instead of leaving it as a hard A. It's like, why? What's the rhyme and reason to it? It's like, there really is no rhyme or reason. It's just what we've come up with. I do feel bad for anyone trying to learn English. It's a horrible language to try and learn. Okay, we are about there. So basically the way I'm looking at this is we're going to kind of want to get to Yeoman at about 3,000 feet. So when we're about 30 miles back from Yeoman, we could probably start down. And no sense in starting down any sooner than that. There's too much traffic underneath us trying to get to all the other New York area airports. Although the weather doesn't look too bad here. It looks like it's pretty reasonable underneath, but it was definitely calling a wet runway, so kind of assuming the worst, and we're breakout somewhere on final. We're left to have to go through these clouds at some point, breakout on final, but doing pretty good here. Let's see here. Quick. It's on the previous stream here, but we are getting pretty close to promotion here in my pilot's life career. 4792, and you need 5,000, so we basically need 2 more flights and then just a tiny bit. So probably on the third flight second flight from now, this will be the first flight, second flight, third flight from now, we're going to probably get a promotion to senior first officer, which will hopefully come with a pay bump, although my pay is pretty impressive right now. Lots of stuff in my inbox. It's mostly the Saturday event poll that just comes up every week, where they just ask everyone to pick and choose what they want to see. I could probably delete these messages in all honesty, because I don't really need to. I didn't even know I could delete messages. I just noticed this exists here. Salary income credited. So for my last stream, which I did almost 3 weeks ago, and I'm sorry it's been so long, everybody, but just the way it is. Salary income credited $147.64. So yeah, I'm not rich by any means, but I'm getting there. Anyways, I'm not going to do all that in front of you forever, but I just thought I'd delete a few of those. $3,014. I think I need 4,000 for that type rating. So actually, at the rate of going, it's going to be a little while longer, but it's not that far out before I do get that 777 type rating, and maybe we can fly the 777 around a little bit. That would actually be a nice change in my pilot's life career, because I feel like I'm really in a rut now. I feel like I'm really getting in a rut. I think it's still going to be about one more season before I have $4,000 at my disposal, but if I can get that $4,000 and I can get the 777 type rating, maybe we could do once in a while a long leg or something. But I hate streaming long legs. I really do. They're so annoying to do. All right, so we're just coming up on Proud now. We're about 30 miles out from Yeoman. So let's go ahead and set 3,000. 3,000 feet is set. We're going to do this as an open descent. So thrust idle, open descent, all blue. We are below 10,000. Lights are on. Perfect. And we are speed managed at 250. That's fine. What I am going to do is turn our heading about 15 degrees to the right to kind of set us up for a nice right downwind here. So let's call it an even. Let's just make it 060 for now. We'll kind of bring it back to the left again. We get a chance. And pull that. There's heading 060. And then I can do a direct radial in. So we can clear out this nav leg that I'm no longer using, and we can get a direct radial into Yeoman and see our cross-track error from that. So direct Yeoman with the radial in of 045. All right, the yellow looks good there. So let's insert that, and then let's pull heading again. So it went to nav blue, and I pulled heading again while I was really quickly just to get it out of nav blue again. So we're only in heading, and there we go. So we just want to get down to Yeoman at 3,000. Boy, she really does not want to go down. Do I have the anti-ice on? I have it off. I probably should have started down sooner. It used to be like you could plan 30 miles to descend 10,000 feet was pretty reasonable. To descend 10,000 feet was pretty reasonable, but this one seems to be a little bit slow here. Still, when you add a little bit of time for the turn onto the base and to final, I think that's going to work out just fine for 3,000 at Yeoman. Alright, 18.7. I got COM 1 is up. New York LaGuardia traffic. JetBlue 172 is approximately 5 miles southeast of the field, just in descent through 8,000 on a left downwind for an ILS runway 22 LaGuardia. Alright, oh, look at that. actually get a little bit of ground contact down there, which means there she blows. I wonder if I can even get an external view really quickly here. That maybe, just maybe, being really jerky though because my frame rate's dropping as I go. And the mouse button gets stuck because it's so jerky. Doesn't help that I have all of Manhattan behind me that I can't even begin. Oh my god, so jerky. I don't think I can do this. Because even it just jerks right past where I'm trying to be. Because there's so much going on there. Alright, anyways, that's my attempt to do it. She's actually pretty quiet at idle. Okay, not doing too badly here, but yeah, I should have started that ascent a little sooner. In hindsight, it does look like we have actually chewed up more distance than I expected. I guess she's heavy though, that's the one thing here. Like we're sitting at 64.3 now, so fuel, so that's pretty good there. How are we doing for the extra fuel? Still 1.1. We need 2.6 at a minimum.
New York traffic, we are crossing runway 31 right, Pan African 013.
That sounded like that was on Unicom. That definitely was on the Kennedy frequency, or on the LaGuardia frequency. All right, I'm going to keep the speed selected 250 for now. It's auto-sequence the approach. It's auto-sequence the approach phase. I'm not happy with that. I want to keep the speed up and get down a little lower first before we turn inbound here. And before we start slowing down. So, yeah, we're almost a beam yeoman. This is actually going to work out, I think, quite well. Pardon me.
New York traffic, we are lining up runway 22 right for departure, Pan African 013.
Alright, these people are also descending at pretty much the same altitude and rate as us. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and start that turn back to 310 for a base leg. And then I'm also going to start bringing the speed back so I can start configuring here. So speed 220. And I think...
Traffic Delta Lima Romeo 13 frequency.
New York area traffic. JetBlue 172 is 15 miles northeast of LaGuardia on a left base to final runway 22 LaGuardia. Just a quick call on the 22.8 Unicom there, just in case anybody's listening. 4400 sending 3000. You can see the glide slopes coming through, so I did make a good judgment about where to make this turn here. Alright, let's go ahead and go flaps 1. Speed checked. Flaps 1. Let's get the speed back a little more, 200 knots. And no change in status. Remove status. Remove status. ECAM actions are complete. Alright, and we are about 3.5 miles away from joining final. We'll go about another mile, then we'll turn. We're just getting through that intercept there. We're right on the glide slope altitude there. Look at us just following that glide slope down there. That actually worked out well. Maybe I went out just a tiny bit further than I expected and planned, but in terms of planning where to turn, that actually worked out really well. Alright, so let's do a heading of 240 for the intercept. And
to go.
Thank you. 4,000 sending 3,000. Now let's go ahead and arm up the approach. So there's Cat 3 single, autopilot 1 and 2, Locan glide slope blue. Coming in nicely just underneath the approach path here. I'm going to go ahead and get the speed back to 190. So we're ready to drop flaps 2 here. I heard somebody make a post on Unicom. Or on
New York traffic runway 22 right, back at Pan African 013. Heading direct to Mary.
Alright. I may have turned a moment too soon there. We got a good wind actually from the southwest here, which is probably what screwed my turn to final there. Because we're going to level off here. We're just below the glide slope. Alright, 250 is a good intercept. Alt star, speed. I may have turned myself just a moment too soon there trying to get that localizer. Trying to make sure I didn't overshoot. One thing I didn't look at was I didn't look at the wind to see what the wind was doing to us here. Alright. Alt. I had to go drop myself a little bit lower because I find I'm not at quite the right height for my stick. I know exactly where my stick should be. Unfortunately, I can't really move the stick up and down, which is the same thing in the real airplane. The stick does move up and down, the seat moves up and down, but I can't move my armrest any lower than it is. There's Lokestar, glide slope, missed approach altitude of 3,000 feet set. Flaps 2, speed checked. Flaps 2. Get speed 180, and let's keep 180 to Greco. See if we can do that. It's pretty reasonable. New York LaGuardia traffic. JetBlue 172 is joining a 8-mile final, runway 22 LaGuardia.
2,500.
Radar altimeter alive.
Thank you. Alright, looking pretty good to keep the anti-ice off. We're pretty warm down here at 15 degrees. I can see the lights there of the runway just kind of coming into sight in the distance there, so that's going to be okay. Really have to nail the touchdown zone on this one because it is a relatively short runway at 7,000 feet. It's not short, but it's short-ish for an airliner operation. You don't have a lot of time or margin to float to the touchdown zone, so firm landing is preferred over a soft landing in a place like LaGuardia. Alright, let's go gear down, landing check. Gear down. Gear down.
Gear down.
Flaps 2.
Cabin crew be seated for landing.
Flaps 2.
Speed checked. Flaps 2.
I realized I was setting it, and I was not asking her to set it, which was going to put her out of sync with me. I was actually setting it using my sleeves. Alright, there's Greco.
Speed checked. Flaps 2.
Alright, no change in status, remove status, remove status. Flaps 3.
Speed checked. Flaps 3.
Flaps full.
Speed checked. Flaps full.
Landing checklist.
Ecam Nemo.
No blue. Landing no blue.
Landing checklist completed.
Alright, I'm going to shut up for a little bit here because I want to keep this open in case I have to do a go around. I need to keep this mic open here. But everything's done. Yeah, I was setting these things. I'm so used to not using the FS2 group FO. I was setting all the flap settings myself. I'm forgetting she's even there. Alright, so far my frame rate's not terrible. Hopefully it keeps itself up because I find when it gets close to the ground it sometimes has trouble. Nice views today, though. LaGuardia traffic, JetBlue 172, 2 miles final, runway 22 LaGuardia.
500.
Stable. That's a Rikers Island right there. Anyone that watches Law & Order has been to Rikers Island many times, at least on the show. Land.
100 above.
Roger. Autopilot off.
Minimum.
Continue. Cat 1.
Checked. Checked.
Landing.
100.
Checked.
50. 40. 30. 20. Retard. 5.
Spoilers. Reverse green. Diesel. 70 knots.
Manual brakes. There, that worked pretty well. Still made Charlie. New York traffic, JetBlue 172, clear runway 22, taxiing to the ramp. Disarming the spoilers is assigned to FS2 crew to do the whole left or landing stuff here. She should get through it all. Hopefully she'll get the lights in a second there, because I hate blinding people. There she goes. And yeah, Fenix gets a little out of sync. I find, yeah, takeoff and landing, the Fenix gets a little bit slow. The rest of the time, it's a very good airplane, but for some reason, and maybe it's the communication with the sim, or is it the sim itself? I'm hoping that when I get a faster video card, and I can offload some more of this processing power onto the video card, things will run a little smoother. Hopeful. Ever hopeful. One thing I didn't do, of course, didn't even think about it, was select my gate. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to taxi the fun way today. We're going to go under the bridges.
Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened until the captain has turned off the seatbelt sign and the aircraft is parked safely at the gate.
Let's just pull up GSX really quickly and tell it 58 is the gate.
Gather your belongings and disembark. We'd like to thank you for flying with us today. We appreciate your business and hope to see you again on a future flight.
Gate 58. No need for follow me. Just arm everybody up there, ready to meet me. And, Frontier Airlines, fine, whatever. Does feel like that corner of the hangar's awfully close, doesn't it? That's the one thing about this line. Like, you feel like you're very close to that wall. You are actually far enough apart, but you know, no matter what size of airplane you fly as a pilot, you always think that the airplane is bigger than it is, and generally by about a factor of 2. You would think the wing is twice as long as it actually is. It's 100 feet out to either side instead of just 50 feet out to either side. So it always feels like you're really close. Alright, I might take another external screenshot because I feel like this could also make a really sweet title card. If I do this just right, helps if I'm on the line, because that'll look nicer if I'm on the line. And I might even just stop for a second, I know. It's corny, but just to see if I can... Let's do this. Okay, and then let's do this, and let's come out over here. Or maybe I can do it from over here. Being a little corny here instead of actually focusing on my job. Why am I not moving now? There we go. What the hell? Weird. When I was like in drone mode, nothing worked. That was weird. That's interesting. None of the controls work when you're in drone mode. I did not know that. I had never had to use the controls in drone mode before. Fantastic. Anywho, okay. To heck with that. Let's just focus on what we're doing here. So make sure the weather radar did go off. The weather radar did go off. Gate 58's coming up ahead on the left. We've got accumulators good. Anti-ice is off. Lights to go. That was, yeah, that was weird. Alright, gate 40. 58 is one of these ones here on the left. I can't remember if it's the first one or the second one here, so let's just see what I can see. I think that says 59, so logic dictates 58 must be the next gate. And yeah, I'm pretty sure I remember. I checked it yesterday, and I was pretty sure it's a 90-degree gate, which it is. So this is gate 58 here. I do see the marshaller there, so let's go ahead and go taxi light off. Nice and slow because my frame rate's kind of poo, but what are you gonna do? I'm trying to keep this, always trying to keep the stream PG for the children because I know so many of my children are watching this. They don't. After landing checklist.
Radar and predictive wind shear system.
Off.
After landing checklist completed.
I do love scenery that has these VGDSs. It's always nice. More and more airports are getting into it. Alright, there we go. Brakes, brakes, brakes. Shutdown checklist. Parking checklist.
Parking brake or chocks.
On. Set. Set. Set and checked.
Engines.
Off.
Wing lights.
Off.
Fuel pumps.
Off.
Parking checklist completed.
Alright, mute that. And we're done. We're here. People, the door is open. We're going to get rid of the FAC and clear that because it's all the MEL. Door is open. People are going to be getting off my airplane. Why is nobody getting off my airplane? Where are my passengers? Ah, you stupid thing. It worked yesterday. I swear it worked yesterday. I had passengers yesterday, and today I don't have passengers. Is one thing that's always annoying about this. So it's never quite right every single time. But what are you going to do? Anyways, the important thing is that we're here. I did not know that. I did not know that about the drone mode, in all honesty. I don't think I'd ever realized that when you're in drone mode, none of the flight controls work. So I was trying to push the thrust levers up to get the airplane to move again after I stopped under the bridge. Nothing was happening until I switched the internal view. Then I had it like way up, so it went way up, and I switched out, and it was still stuck way up, and I had to go back. Oh, I didn't know that. I honestly did not know that. All this time flying the sim, I'd never figured that out. So, anyways, please remember to submit your flight. Well, thank you. I will. Let's go to flight. Let's go to submit flight. Just thinking about it. Just thinking about it. There it is. Your flight has been submitted. Nice. All right. And that's it for today. We're not going to do another flight for today, just for the preview for next time. What are we doing next time? From LaGuardia, we're going back down to Palm Beach, West Palm Beach International. So that's our next flight, is to go to West Palm Beach. But for today, there goes all my passengers with their heads sticking out of the jet bridge. Thanks, guys. I'm just going to cover you up so I don't see you anymore. That's basically it. And we're already like halfway through this schedule of Season 13. After this, we'll come back to New York, back to Fort Lauderdale again, and from Fort Lauderdale, here's a new one that we haven't done before. We're going to go to Mo Bay and back to New York. So that's a bit of a long one from Mo Bay back to New York, but this will be kind of a fun one here. It'd be great if I could figure out a way to do 2 legs in one go again, because sometimes that's just nice to turn around and go back and do it again. But at the same time, like this 3-hour leg, like I hate going, not I hate, but yeah, like it makes for a long stream. It's kind of the nice thing about flying the regionals was you are much more likely. I'm just going to turn this volume outside down. As one nice thing about working the regionals was you were much more likely to do short legs back to back, and you could do 2, maybe even 3 legs in a day. When you get to the main line and you're doing 3 or 4 hour flights, you're doing 2 legs a day max most of the time. Occasionally you might do 3 if you're doing like the regional style 1 to 2 hour legs. But once you get in these 3 to 4 hour legs, you're doing 1, maybe 2 legs a day, and that's it. So, anyways, that's where we are. Dashboard, how we doing? We're doing pretty good, I think. 4887.85. We're getting pretty close. Did I do something wrong here? Because that seems like I didn't add 100 points on that one. I must have scored something poorly here. I don't know what. I thought I did everything pretty well for the most part. Score of 95. What did I lose out on? I'm really curious. I thought I did pretty well on that one. Where did I lose my points? Landing rate 504. Okay. Yeah, and that is. I didn't think it was that excessive. I mean, it was definitely, we came down firmly, but that was again part of the plan was to do a relatively firm landing. So I guess that's reasonable. I mean, it's still a score of 95 out of 100. It's still pretty good, but I'm a little disappointed by that. But so be it. I thought that the landing actually was quite nice. 504. I think 504 is a little excessive, but okay. If that's what you say, I guess I have to believe you. Yeah. But anyways, I think that's it for today, guys. I hope you had fun watching that. Definitely had fun. Definitely had fun flying it. And yeah, I guess happy holidays to everyone out there. Whatever you do, wherever you go. Oh yeah, that's what's on the back of my chair here too. It's my good old Santa hat, which for some reason is very washed out. It is actually quite bright red, but it's very washed out under this light here. So anyways, wherever you go, guys, whatever you do, I hope you guys have a happy holiday season. Whoever you spend it with, I hope you get to spend lots of time with people you like spending time with. And hopefully in the new year, you'll spend some time with me. I don't think I'm going to have time even to stream between the holidays. I doubt it. But sometime in January, we'll pick up on season 13. In the meantime, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a great stream. I hope you learned something. And I'll see you out there on the VATSIMs, guys. Have a happy holiday, everybody.